Good afternoon and welcome to today's New York City Council preliminary budget on the Committee of Governmental Operations, State and Federal Legislation. At this time during today's hearing, no one may approach the dais. Please silence all electronic devices. Chair, you may begin.
Thank you very much. I am Gail Brewer. I'm chair of this Committee on Governmental Operations, State and Federal Legislation. It says here I'm happy to return, but that was like 100 years ago when I was chair of this committee before. So I'll just say I'm glad to be here. And this is on the fiscal 27 preliminary budget for the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, known as DCAS, the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, known as OAF, the Law Department, and the Board of Elections. I want to thank everyone who's joined us here today from the different administrative agencies. Following testimony and questions with all agencies, we will hear testimony from the public at around 4:30 or maybe a little bit earlier. Thank you to the advocates and the community members who join us today. I will be brief in what I have to say. This committee has jurisdiction over a wide variety of city agencies and offices and boards that play a crucial role in the operation of city government. The services administered by these agencies include legal matters, elections, campaign, documents and records, payroll, as well as the largest agency in our jurisdiction, DCAS. As the commissioner knows, DCAS oversees the operations of city government ranging from supplies, fleets, property leases, green energy, trainings, and civil service exams. The law department is responsible for representing the city officials, and reviewing city policy and legislation. OAF, which is the city's independent tribunal, adjudicates fair and timely hearings, and the Board of Elections, which, as we know, administers the city's elections, including general, municipal, and special. Today, we would like to get a deeper understanding of the agency's expense budgets, DCAS's capital plan, the impact of services to agencies and the general public, metrics that are used, and key agency initiatives. We want to dive into the metrics reported for these agencies in the fiscal year 26 preliminary mayor's management report. I have my own copy. Just want you to know. As chair, I look forward to working alongside the administration to come up with ways to create, fund, and implement new and improved programs to help our government to work efficiently and effectively, as well as to determine ways to change existing operations to save the city money, which is, it seems to be the number one issue right now, but also maintaining essential services. So, to begin, I want to thank the Commissioner of DCAS and her staff. Today's first hearing will be with DCAS. Welcome to the newly appointed and very capable Commissioner Yume Kasai. DCAS's fiscal 27 preliminary budget is, according to here, $1.69 billion, but I don't know that that's the exact number according to DCAS, which is 81.2 million less than the fiscal 26 adopted budget. DCAS is absolutely the backbone of our government, making city government work for all New Yorkers, including recruiting, hiring, and training city employees, managing 55 public buildings, if that's the right number, acquiring, selling, and leasing city property, purchasing goods and services for agencies, overseeing the vehicle fleet for the city, and leading the city's efforts to reduce carbon emissions. The preliminary plan includes 3 new needs totaling $8.3 million in FY26 for non-capitally eligible repair projects, including emergency facade and roof work, office consolidations, and the very look forward to new tours at 1 Center Street. Although as borough president, I was the first and mine were free. I just want you to know. I look forward to learning more today about DCAS's efforts to convert the city fleet to electric vehicles, to increase revenues generated for the city, and how the agency will respond to the mayor's savings mandate, which is quite extensive. I would like to thank the committee staff who have helped prepare this hearing. Saymoul Hamid, who's a senior financial analyst, Julia Haramis, who's assistant director of the finance division, Jahari Frazier, who's legislative counsel, Erica Cohen, who's a policy analyst, and in my office, Shula Puder, Chief of Staff, and Cynthia Hornig, Budget Director. So without further ado, and we have Councilmember Felice online. Without further ado, Commissioner DeCas, all yours, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Oh, we have to swear you in, I'm sorry.
Do you want to swear in our deputy commissioners as well at the same time?
Yes, please.
Just save you time.
Okay, great. We will now hear testimony from the administration. Before we begin, I will administer the oath of affirmation. Panelists, please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do.
All right, you may begin when ready.
Thank you. In deference to the temperature of this room, I'm going to read the 5-minute version of our testimony, but we're submitting a longer version that for folks online and for the council member here, you can certainly dig into. So good afternoon, Chair Brewer and members of the Committee on Governmental Operations. I am Nycc, Commissioner of the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, and I will say that I am very happy to return here. May I just say that I think that we collectively did a very nice job on the renovation here. As I begin my second month at the agency, I'm pleased to join you all to discuss the preliminary DCAS budget for fiscal year 2027. Last December, we announced that since 2006, the city government had reduced greenhouse gas emissions by 31%, outpacing the private sector by over 6 percentage points. At the same time, government operations have reduced energy consumption overall by nearly 16%. In short, our facilities are utilizing cleaner sources of energy like solar and consuming less of it, all while steadily increasing service delivery. Despite our progress, there's still important work to be done. Local Law 97 is a necessarily ambitious mandate to match the greatest existential crisis of our time. Notwithstanding this, we are on track to meet the mandate in the local law by 2030. We've also made tremendous strides in upgrading, updating, and greening our municipal fleet. We have the largest and cleanest fleet in the nation, and in partnership with DOT, we operate the largest electric charging networks in the state. Our current count of plug-in electric vehicles stands at over 5,750, with orders in place to reach 6,100 in the coming months. To complement the growth of our electric fleet, we installed and operate over 2,400 charging ports. Thanks to the work of our fleet management team, we've reduced greenhouse gas fleet emissions in the city by 46% through FY24 and will exceed 50% reduction in the FY25's reporting. At DCAS, we're responsible for maintaining the city as an employer of choice for New Yorkers. Our priority is to help agencies fill critical positions, offer more promotional opportunities to our city workers, and break down barriers to entry. Over the past 2 years, we have undertaken an effort to review the minimum qualification requirements of entry-level, supervisory, and managerial titles. This review is to determine whether the existing qualifications for the positions accurately define expectations or could be revised. To date, I'm proud to share that nearly 70 titles have been revised, with 13 more in review, potentially increasing access to municipal work for hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers. This effort is ongoing, and we expect to review additional titles this year. Further expanding our reach, we have continued to offer bridge exams. These exams offer the public an opportunity to take one multiple choice test for multiple titles and have their name appear on multiple civil service lists simultaneously. In short, what would have required someone to take 4 different tests, pay 4 different fees, and wait for 4 different exams to be graded is now done in one convenient exam. Our Office of Citywide Procurement is the engine that keeps our sister agencies stocked with the materials needed to execute their missions. Most recently, our office played a critical role in the city's rapid response to the historic snowfall this winter. In the past several months alone, our central storehouse has delivered over 1 million pounds of salt to DSNY and DOT to keep our roads clear and passable, and distributed thousands of blankets to partner agencies for vulnerable populations. A bit closer to home last fall, we renovated the brick-and-mortar city store located at 1 Center Street. This is the store that is the unofficial Gail Brewer store, where we sell her scarves. Modernizing and brightening the storefront with a fresh open design. The in-house renovation boasted a new dedicated entrance directly from Center Street, welcoming foot traffic and making the store more accessible and inviting for locals and visitors alike. And most excitingly, we've announced a brand new municipal childcare initiative at 1 Center Street. As we look ahead to the next fiscal year, we'll be taking you through the DCAS budget. In FY27, our operating budget is $1.7 billion, inclusive of all funding sources, with $244.1 million covering payroll and other personnel services costs, and $1.4 billion covering other than personnel services. $1 billion, or 61% of our budget, will be used to support citywide utility payments for heating, lighting, and power. These are fixed costs based on forecasted energy usage and utility rates. The good news is that DCAS is working every day, both internally and with our sister agencies through multiple programs, to reduce energy use. I'm proud to say that this work has generated more than $156 million in annual energy costs since 2014. Beyond providing utilities to our sister agencies, we are also tasked with identifying physical spaces for city agencies and other public entities to meet their operational needs. Of our overall budget, $170 million is dedicated to these costs associated with multi-tenanted leased sites. Given DCAS's role as a citywide service provider, we're also thinking about ways to increase revenue opportunities to the city's general fund. Every year, DCAS generates a significant amount of revenue on the city's behalf. In FY27, our revenue target is $62 million. The final piece of our budget is our capital plan, including the funds allocated towards upgrading and renovating our infrastructure. The preliminary budget reflects an updated 5-year plan of $7.6 billion from FY26 through FY30, including $4.2 billion for projects managed by DCAS. This plan includes maintenance and enhancements to our facilities, the renovation of leased spaces, and continuing our energy conservation and fleet electrification work. As we work through the budgeting process, we will continue to advance the core missions of this agency and uplift innovative ideas to make this city work better for New Yorkers and our sister agencies. Among these, leading into fiscal year 2027, we will double down on our efforts to modernize the civil service system and speed up hiring efforts, critical for filling vacancies across the city. We will also lean into our work to reduce carbon emissions through electrification and retrofitting existing infrastructure as we advance towards our local law mandates. In closing, I want to thank the Council for its partnership and for providing me with the opportunity to testify. And I also want to just thank my staff. They did not write this into my testimony, for all the work that they did in preparation for this. So I really appreciate all of the work that you all have done in the last couple weeks. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We've been joined by Councilmember Dinowitz and Councilmember Morano, along with Felice. No, Felice is on and Morano is here. Felice is on Zoom, as I said earlier. So thank you very much, and thank you for wearing the scarf.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to know
It was
this
too
is
hot,
my
though, to wear it.
prize
Yeah.
for the city store. I insisted that they be long and not square, and when they open, they have many long scarves. So
And it's the city skyline. It's
you have
really
no
beautiful.
idea how much. That's 20 years trying to get this freaking scarf in the store.
Also, you get all city employees get a discount, just a reminder, at the city store.
Thank you. So, as you know, the mayor issued the executive order calling for each agency to appoint a chief savings officer, and that person is to find savings. We know that they have to be 1.5% of the budget, and I know that this is not due until March 20th. But are there some, in some general way, are there programs that would be exempt from the savings requirement? Could you share with us the areas that you might be including? And we're all glad to hear about the end of the 2-for-1.
Yes.
But it's concerning to hear that agencies will be permitted perhaps to fill only half of their current vacancies. So I didn't know how many vacancies you have, and just generally, how are you approaching this budget challenge?
So thank you, Councilmember. I will just start by saying Shannon Middleton, who is my new first deputy commissioner, is also our chief savings officer and also our former chief financial officer. So she's wearing 3 hats here today. And I will be giving her the opportunity to give a lot of numbers to you. That's why her budget is thicker than mine. I mean, her binder is thicker than mine. So as you noted, we are working towards the March 20th deadline. So unfortunately, it is sort of tricky for us to be able to bring you some of the ideas that we're already working on, but we are working on ideas right now. And I think we feel, as an agency that has a lot of opportunities to generate revenue and find savings through creative means, through our procurement and other mechanisms, I think we're cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to help the city in this current fiscal circumstance.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, I think you covered it. We're looking at our strength.
Can you
as a-
speak into the mic?
Sorry. The Commissioner covered it. We're looking to leverage our strength as a buyer in procurement and how we can look to deliver those services more efficiently and cheaper for all other city agencies, not just for DCAS.
And how many vacancies do you have? Because that could be impacted.
Yes, so our total vacancies is 370 as of January, and that's about a 15% vacancy rate.
Okay. So I guess that could be used as part of it, but.
Correct.
How does DCAS assess which vehicle models and brands are the best suited for city operations? This is all about the city electric vehicles. How do you measure reliability and efficiency and longevity of what you purchase? Are there factors such as range, charge times, battery mileage taken into consideration? And of course, I read in the papers, you know more than I do, that, you know, that guy in the White House is scaling back electric, which is obviously a mistake in our opinion, and I'm sure in yours. But how does the production or manufacturing, how is it impacted by federal standards? And has this posed any difficulties to procure? And then I have more questions. You do have a really great guy who runs your fleet.
Yes, I think his name is Keith. No.
Taylor. We know him very well. We love him. Go ahead.
Yes. So anyway, I'm going to have Deputy Commissioner Kerman answer this question because there's a lot of technical pieces to this that I think he can help bring detail to.
Okay, Keith Kerman, Chief Fleet Officer. Good to see you again,
to see you.
Council Member. So one, we work with the agencies to specify all the different vehicles. The city has an unbelievably complicated fleet, 120 on-road models, 70 off-road. We're really running hundreds and hundreds of different service operations. So when we say it's a fleet, but it's a pretty complicated thing. We work with agencies on the specifications, including for electric vehicles. We continue to be all in on electrification. And we've made a lot of progress. Just 3 years ago, I could not have told you that we had a single all-electric pickup or van. We're operating 800 now and growing that fleet, and very popular vehicles working tremendously. We've introduced our first electric garbage trucks, non-plowing units, our first electric box trucks, our first electric sweepers, our first electric rack trucks, and many other models. We're working with NYPD. We just introduced the first pursuit-rated, police-rated all-electric vehicle, the Chevy Blazer EV, and NYPD has their first 50 units and are testing them now. There's a lot of proof that has to go into that kind of transition. So we're continuing to be all in. There's no question that federal policy has led to some announcements recently. We really were a big adopter of the Ford Lightning, the pickup truck, and that's going to go off the market, at least for a short period. But we do have another EV model that is available. We are the largest national user of the Chevy Bolt. And so there's going to be a short period left that we can get the Bolt. We're going to try and get as many as we can. But right now we have not, we read the news too, and these models, and we are talking to manufacturers constantly.
They're still manufacturing electric? Because
Absolutely.
if you read the papers, you'd think not.
No, correct. That's not true. No part of our program has stopped. Have we lost a few vehicle models? Yes, but we have other models to replace them. Are we concerned about the supply chain? Of course, we're out there. But I will say that DCAS is doing everything possible to advocate for electric vehicles, to partner with other cities, with other jurisdictions, and we hope to say a lot more about that in just the next couple months to make sure that we keep the pressure on. EV hybrids are unbelievably efficient. You mentioned efficiency. We just published our Local Law 75 use-based fuel economy report, and we thank you for that. Going back, I think, about 15 years. Electric vehicles are incredibly efficient, 9 times more efficient than combustion vehicles. If you care about efficiency, then electrifying your transport is what you would do. A plug-in hybrid is more efficient than a hybrid. Well, I should go. An EV is more efficient than a plug-in hybrid. A plug-in hybrid is more efficient than a hybrid, and a hybrid is way more efficient than a gas. Everything in the electrification, we are achieving efficiency, and we just published that report. So, we're still all in. We think these are the smart investments, save enormously on fuel and emissions, but they also save enormously on maintenance. 60 to 70% fewer breakdowns, less maintenance costs. So you are saving on these vehicles, not just reducing pollution, but they're smart, efficient investments. And, we're concerned about the marketplace, but we'll do our best to influence it. And so far, everything moves forward.
Okay, that's helpful because when you listen to the press, you hear differently. Now, I think your deadline is 2035. What does that deadline mean? In other, what deadline do you have to supposedly, depending on the manufacturing situation, to be electric all the way?
So, oh, go ahead.
So Local Law 140 requires the light and medium duty vehicles of the city to be electric by 2035,
Right.
and then the heavy and specialized and emergency by 2038,
Okay.
if doable.
Right.
On the main light and medium duty vehicles, your pickups, your vans, your SUVs, your sedans, today there are models out there and we can implement and we're moving forward. There's no question that when you get into things like obviously plow trucks, we
Right.
just went through a big storm emergency. There is not an electric viable plow truck on the planet Earth today. So that we have to see, right? We're talking to manufacturers. We're going to, if we can push it and achieve it, we will. But, we have to be realistic.
Right.
There are
We have to
limitations.
be realistic based on the federal situation too.
As well, right. Certainly, our ability to implement electric models depends on further investment in the industry. It depends on further development in the industry.
Okay.
But we are moving forward. In 2035 for light and medium would be that first big target. There's a lot more opportunity to electrify the light and medium side than when you get into plow trucks, some of our fire trucks and ladders,
Right.
where there's a lot more complication operationally.
Okay. Now, how much funding do you have from OMB to purchase? In other words, can you get as many as you want? Do you have maybe, 200 something that you're funded for and you need another 500? How does the funding work? Because of course, everybody would love to be able to buy everything tomorrow, but I didn't know if that's a challenge.
So currently in our expense budget, we have $10 million every fiscal year. And in our capital budget, just in fiscal year 26, we have 7.8 million.
Okay.
Now that 10 million supports roughly 220 vehicles a year. I think in order to hit the numbers we need to by 2035, on average, we should probably be doing around 640 vehicles.
640 per
annually.
year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're in
And that was
conversations.
222 or something like that.
Yes, and we're in conversations with OMB continuing.
Well, we need to make sure. We've been joined by Councilmember Lee and Councilmember Hankinson. Thank you both for being here. Okay, the other question I have is, I know this sounds silly, but my city store, how much revenue have you generated, I guess, in 26? And how is this revenue utilized?
Thank you, Councilmember. Yes,
Thank you,
I'm going to
Councilmember.
turn that to my numbers person.
Yes. So we're happy to report in fiscal year 25, our revenue increased from 387,000 in fiscal year 24 to 463,000. So we've definitely seeing, the impact of the beautification, the renovations, and the highlighting of the city store. That's a revenue that goes to support the general fund and helps the city close the gap. Similar to all other DCAS revenue streams. Yeah.
Okay. And then the auto auction contract with GovDeals. Why was a new contract required and what factors were considered with this vendor? Was there an issue with the prior one? And then how long is this contract with GovDeals?
Okay,
This is on the auction end. Yeah.
sure. So we had a vendor, IAA. We've been doing online auctions, as you know, since 2012, and that in general has been very successful and grown our market to really a national market. But we did default the vendor IAA, and we went through a long process with them. At the most basic, they were not providing the full level of public access to these auctions that was required in the contract. And we tried to resolve this issue with them, but we're unable to do so. We've gone to GovDeals, and the good news, we do not have a public access issue, and we've got about 40% more revenue per vehicle coming in, those issues kind of being tied together. So we're in a good place right now. We're having a very, very strong auction year in fiscal year 26. We will far exceed our target. And we're seeing much more return in a much more vibrant market. So we did what we had to do to move that vendor, to change the vendor, but we're in a strong place now.
How long is that contract for? Go.
The current GovDeals contract, I would need to check on the
Okay,
terms
just
for that.
curious. I think you talked about this issue, but to meet the city's renewable energy goals and achieve local law 97, because that's what, not only does the city have to do it, but the private sector, they always calling me. Do you have adequate resources to reduce the emissions from government operations by 50% by 2030, which of course is, I know you talked about it a little bit, but can you be more,
Yes.
this is a huge question from the community.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember. And I just want to say, I acknowledge that that we have more to do. This issue, even mandates aside, I think, as we've sort of discussed on with my team, I think even if and when we exceed targets, there's still going to be more to do because this is such an existential issue. And that's why we're working very aggressively every year to deliver projects that reduce our emissions. I am pleased to say that we are on track to, with our current funding, to exceed our targets by 2030.
Okay. And why do you think that's possible? Just because you have the funding, or you have already good infrastructure, or that's good news?
Yeah, so it's a combination of things. One is a large number of projects to reduce our emissions, which we're happy to go into greater detail if that's helpful. And then the other thing is that we're bringing online a large project that will be delivering clean power via Hydro-Quebec, bringing down hydropower from Canada. And it'll be about 20% of New York City's electricity and 100% of all of New York City government's electricity.
Huh, okay. Is there anything you want to add to that? Because any other aspect to it? In other words, you really feel that you're going to get to that point? Okay.
Yes, that's coming online. I'm scooping myself a little. That's coming online this year.
Okay, all right. DCAS, we're all talking about Rikers Island. I assume it closes.
Yes.
And then I assume the Renewable Rikers Act of 2021 will go into effect. And obviously, we want it to be a sustainable situation. Do you have resources and a timeline to complete a master plan to design and build this new infrastructure? I think we're talking about wastewater, closing 4 plants, as I understand it, and then moving them. And then there's much more. So I just didn't know where you are in those plans. Of course, the facilities, borough-based, are not even built yet. But.
Right. Yes, it is a little bit. It is a little bit in the future, and obviously we've already been sort of in the past administration has already been sort of thinking about that. With the change over the administration, obviously there's new appointments that had to be made for that committee that meets, which we participate in. So we'll be resetting that soon, but. It is a little bit in the future right now, so I would say that the plans are not yet at the stage where things are fully fleshed out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge program to plan for, so
yes.
Hopefully it will
But we're, any opportunity I think that we have to build solar or any other infrastructure for reducing our emissions is obviously an exciting opportunity for us.
Okay. Now, the hottest summer days are not here, but when they do arrive, the Energy Demand Management Program, which reduces pollution, reduces energy costs, and saves public agencies, obviously, money on the hottest days. The data shows that DCAS has energy savings and revenue generated by the program have plateaued in recent years. So my question is, do you have the resources to expand this successful energy demand management program? But particularly in the summer, obviously.
So you're talking about our demand response program, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
how's
certainly.
It going, basically? Is what we're trying
Yes.
to say.
First of all, I would just like to say it feels like we are exercising our demand response in this room right now. But yes, we're definitely obviously thinking about all options about how to expand, our ways to save energy through demand response. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yep. On the resource side, it fluctuates, right? Because it's based on the weather, it's based on peak usage. But we have been seeing solidly at least $2 million every fiscal year, and we use that revenue to reinvest into our buildings and create more energy efficiency upgraded equipment.
So 2 million savings is what you're saying?
Revenue, yes.
Yeah,
Revenue.
2 million revenue.
Revenue.
Okay, not savings. All right, I hope that works. We've been joined, go ahead, you
Yeah.
want to add something? Go ahead.
Yes.
Now it
Oh,
is.
now we are. And this is a citywide revenue program too. So we have grown over the past few years in terms of citywide revenue, led by our energy supply team, and we are expecting it. We have enrolled the highest number of facilities in program history right now. So we are expecting it to continue to grow.
Okay, and this includes, I mean, I don't, sort of an aside, but I am always concerned and hopeful for the SIGs, cultural institution groups, and that they're in this pile of being better managed for all of these above reasons. Now, you manage those that are power and light, right? Is that something that DCAS is involved with? I think you are. Does that work?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure,
Sorry.
the SIGs, which are the cultural.
Their enrollment and demand response.
Yes.
Only enrollees who are able to meet the requirements of the program are enrolled.
Okay.
So
Depends then.
the facility has to confirm ahead of time that they are able to meet their obligation
Okay.
during that period of peak load. If they can, they're enrolled.
Okay.
And it's never going to be a continuity of service issue.
Okay, the reason I ask is we're always trying to make sure they get saved because they have so many cuts.
Yeah.
And they're barely surviving with the federal cuts. Councilmember Zhuang has joined us, and Chair Lee, you have some questions.
Hi, good afternoon. And it's great to see you, Commissioner. I feel like it's been a lifetime since we last interacted when I was at KCS.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So just really quickly, in terms of the Space Savings Initiative, throughout various plans, we have seen several adjustments to account for various space savings initiatives, and they aim to make better use of the city's owned and leased spaces to reduce costs. And just wanted to know, how much did the city save from space savings initiatives in FY25, and how much has been saved to date in FY26?
I just want to note on the space savings, obviously there's been a tremendous amount of work that has been done to survey all of the agencies, and that's one of the things that I'm really excited to dig into because I think there's a lot of potential there. But we have already started to do some of that work, so I'll give it to the First Deputy Commissioner to sort of add the numbers here.
Thank you, Commissioner. So fiscal year 25 was a big planning year, getting the surveys out, identifying agency space, usage, and needs. In fiscal year 26, year to date, we've already realized almost $8 million, and that's a combination of cost avoidance as well as actual savings to the lease budget.
Perfect. And do you keep a record of which agencies are sharing spaces, and is this publicly reported anywhere that we can access?
We'll have our EDC of Real Estate and Facilities Management.
Thank you for that question. So it's not currently publicly reported, except that all of our lease data is available online, and that is publicly reported. So you would be able to, eventually see lease reductions where we're vacating a space entirely. But some examples are the law department consolidated some of its space at 100 Church Street, and we were able to move the campaign finance board out of another lease site into that site, thereby relinquishing space at 80 Maiden Lane. Another example is HRA consolidating out of 404 Pine, or Department of Finance consolidating into one of their other sites, so HRO could move into their vacated sites. So it's just some examples of how we got to those numbers.
Perfect. And how do you determine which agencies would be best suited to share space? Is there some kind of survey or?
We persuade them nicely.
I'm sorry?
We persuade them nicely.
Oh,
I mean,
got it.
really work. Sorry, do you want to
Well, I was just going to say, I think the general process as we're sort of, as people's leases come up and stuff like that, we look at a case-by-case basis and what the agency's needs are, and we think about like where we can actually put them. And at that point, because there's a little bit of a moving target as we're sort of doing each of these moves, because, the space evolves as people, as you know, from being in an agency, the space evolves as people sort of have moved from one space to another. So we're constantly sort of refining and having conversations with the agencies about their needs, and then we'll figure out where we can fit people. But our number one goal, obviously, is to make sure that we're being responsible with taxpayer dollars, and also making sure that agencies have adequate space to work in.
Perfect. Thank you. And just moving on to Con Edison Smart Charge and other adjustments. I say this as someone who drives an EV car, full EV. And selfishly, I have a question because
She wants a charging station at City Hall Park.
no, but you know what's crazy is that I asked if I could charge here and I was told no because I'm technically not a city vehicle, but I would gladly pay if I was like in some kind of emergency situation. So I'm just wondering if we're allowed to charge at City Hall.
She's been asking this since the day she started.
Yeah, exactly.
I will just say we are very aggressively expanding our charging infrastructure. And in fact, one of the things that I like to brag about early and often is that DCAS has the largest charging infrastructure in the state, along with DOT. We are constantly looking for places to install charging, not just for city fleet, but we also are now starting to install public charging places. So we are very eager. If you have any sites in your district that you think might be a viable option,
One in City Hall.
obviously tell us. Yes,
Oh,
but,
no, but-
I'll let Keith speak to
just
a specific location.
Yeah, and just to add really quickly, I can recommend places because we're a transit desert in Eastern Queens,
Yes.
and so there's no trains or subways or Long Island railroads, and so this is something that the community would love.
That would be great. Yeah. And I mean, I think obviously there are certain criteria that you have to sort of look for in terms of like the electric grid. And that's something that we work closely with Con Ed on. But I don't know, Keith, if you wanted to add anything.
Sure. So the good news, we have a workplace charging initiative. City Hall is in it. We can work out right after this meeting for you to charge. You will have to pay because it is your
I can
personal
pay you,
car.
yeah.
But that done. We will have you set up
Yes.
before the end of the day or as soon as we are in touch with you. And then, we are very open to ideas about additional charging. Finding space is the challenge for us. We are in the field every single day with Con Ed, assessing locations. If it's viable at a logistics level, right, you got to have access. And of course, there's got to have juice. We have to have available electric. But if you provide us with lists, we can be out there, very soon and assessing those locations.
Perfect. And then just more going to the budget piece of this, the smart charge. I know the preliminary plan includes an additional 1.2 million in other categorical funding for FY26, only for incentive revenue received for the city's participation in the program. And so, how does Con Ed determine the incentive funding, and what types of services and activities are considered?
Keith, you're our most popular guest star.
Yes.
So Con Ed has been a really important partner for us, and they have the Smart Charge, but then the Ready Charge is actually the big one for us. And so they are providing for every one of the electric chargers that we're installing. And just for background, we run the largest fast charging electric network in the New York State. We have 415 fast chargers. We are installing more fast chargers literally every single week. So they're providing an offset based not on the pedestal, not on the unit, but based on the electrical upgrades or the electrical costs. And those are extraordinarily important funds for us, and we are using those to reinvest. That's actually how we do level 2 chargers. So the slow charger, the overnight charger, most of that is funded through Con Ed grants. It's also how, consistent with Local Law 140, we train mechanics and city fleet operators to really learn about EV and understand how to operate and maintain EV. So the Con Ed partnership has been very important, and it really is a daily thing. We are in the field with Con Ed today and every day.
And what are there any limitations in terms of how you can utilize the funds once they come back?
I don't believe there is a limitation.
Okay.
I do believe it comes in as general purpose grant funding because it is an offset to expenditures. But the reality is how we do, in fact, use it is to reinvest in our sustainability program.
Right. And have you assessed ways to increase participation in the program by city agencies to increase the incentive revenues from Con Ed?
So on the Smart Charge, yes. So we do have a Smart Charge program. It involves incentivizing you for basically off-peak charging. And so we do that with all our non-emergency agencies where we can, right? So there are some agencies, I can't restrict the charging of police electric cars and other emergency response vehicles. We have to give them flexibility. But certainly, say at the Parks Department and DEP, where you can charge overnight, we are doing that. And we are bringing in a revenue stream, as you noted. We are bringing in that Smart Charge revenue stream.
Okay. And I just have one quick question, Chair, if that's okay, on Local Law 97, only because this is a law that really impacts my district heavily. Because despite what people may think, I actually have the most number of co-ops and condos in my area. And so I bring this up to say that there's a couple bills we have that are sort of making adjustments. I know it's probably different for you all because you're city buildings, but based on what I'm understanding, the governor and the state comptroller themselves have come out with reports basically saying that the grid's not going to be ready in time. And so we're trying to figure out a way, at least on the constituency side and the residential side, how to not have the penalties be exorbitant. Because I know in 2030, that's really when the higher fines are going to start. And so if there's a bill in place that we have that literally just matches the penalties and fees to when the grid will actually be ready, is that something that would be helpful, or is it something that would?
I think from DCAS's perspective, I think feel not only are we mandated, but we have a moral obligation to move as fast as we can on this. And as as I was sort of referring to him earlier when we were doing Q&A, we do have this large source of hydropower that's coming online soon, which will actually allow DCAS to allow the city to meet the targets. So and exceed, I should say, and also we are very aggressively working on all of these projects to reduce our consumption. So I don't think that I think for us. Even mandates aside, we want to do as much as possible.
No, and I totally get that, and I think it's just challenging I get, and it's good that on the city side you feel very confident that you can meet those goals. I think the other issue just goes on beyond the, city buildings and where we land with that. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, but that's good to hear. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Hankerson?
Thank you, Chair. I just have a couple of questions regarding some of the recruitment strategies that DCAS uses. What is DCAS doing to attract more applicants for city jobs? If I can start there.
Thank you, Councilmember. So this is something that I'm very excited to dig into because I think there's a lot of strategies that we already do, and then there's more that I think that we can do. But one of the things I'll just say, and then I'll pass it to our Deputy Commissioner to talk in greater detail about the programs that we do have, is sort of even just demystifying what the civil service system is. 80% of our jobs are civil service jobs. And I think if you ask a normal New Yorker, they probably couldn't tell you what civil service is. So, I think we're having, conversations with the team, including our comms team, about, how can we sort of explain to New Yorkers what civil service is and make sure that when tests are posted, that people actually know about it, and not just people who, would normally know about it, but also broader parts of New Yorkers, especially our graduating high school students and our graduating college students. So we just cut a Instagram video, with our DEP commissioner, for example, to promote one of our engineering intern exams, which will be which will hopefully help us reach sort of a broader audience. So things like that. But I'm going to pass it to Deputy Commissioner Porter because we also have a number of public service corps programs and such that also specifically target broader populations.
Sure, thank you for the question. So first and foremost, we work hand in hand with city agencies to develop our annual examination schedule. As Commissioner mentioned, 83% of the positions used across city government require a civil service list. So we work very closely with agencies to ensure that their hiring needs are met through the civil service process. In addition to that, our workforce operations team at DCAS, which consists of the Pathway Programs team, the Public Service Corp team, as Commissioner mentioned, they work hand in hand to use data to drive, the areas that we visit for available hiring events and also working closely with the New York City Public School to educate our youth about available civil service exams. There are also a number of local laws that help to drive how we recruit for the city of New York. So there are many different ways that we do so, but the major driver is civil service exams.
I appreciate that. And I know that you mentioned Instagram, which kind of leads or segues to my next question. What's the agency's means of marketing, and how much of your budget is allocated toward marketing efforts?
So we have, in addition to all of the work that we do in our, public affairs team, which I think, from a budget standpoint, might be difficult to sort of separate out because it's sort of all intertwined. We also have an office of recruitment within human capital, but I'll hand it to you to add any numbers.
That's right, Commissioner. The marketing budget is intertwined, but our Office of Recruitment, which sits under Human Capital, they have a budget of about $500,000, and they're a small but mighty team, 6 of them. They go out to college events. They do Civil Service 101 presentations across the city. They were instrumental when DCAS did the hiring halls. They were supporting agencies across the city in those events.
And if I can just sort of shamelessly plug, we are actually currently hiring for a director of digital content in order to sort of help drive some of this more social media oriented strategy.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
So if you have any good candidates, please send them our way.
Will do. I know in the last administration, there was an initiative that required DCAS to host job fairs citywide. How many individuals were hired as a result of those job fairs?
Sarah, go ahead.
So we can get back to you with the number, but the hiring halls that DCAS participated in were back in 2023. That process has now transitioned to the Small Business Services, and they host hiring halls with both public and private sector employers. DCAS's role in that process is to connect city agencies with these events to recruit for city jobs.
That's my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Keep going. Do you have another?
I have one more question.
Go right ahead.
I don't know if you have the data for this, but going back to the original hiring halls, do you know which agencies seen an increase in terms of hiring as a result of those hiring halls?
So we saw major success with hiring halls across the board. I think it would be more helpful for us to get back to you since that particular event happened some time ago. I don't want to misrepresent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Did you get any state money? Because I know the proposed executive budget in January came out. Now we're waiting for the one House bills to be negotiated. But were there any state good or bad opportunities in that budget? What did you get?
There were some positive impacts in the budget, which I think we have here that we can go into. I think a lot around vehicles, for example.
Mostly around policy, climate policy that we're always supportive of.
Okay.
The state removed the cap on rebates provided to municipalities for clean vehicle infrastructure, which I'm sure Keith is very happy about. They're also the governor's budget is proposing to extend the alternative fuels exemption for 5 years. So we're always happy to see more state policy going towards helping us achieve our climate goals.
Well, that's good. Okay, so basically it wasn't money per se, but it is in the end.
Yes.
Talking about that. Okay, emergency oil purchase. The plan preliminary includes an additional $3.0 million in intra-city funds for FY26, only for heating oil from the Department of Education. I guess it's called some other name now, something about public schools. How was this amount determined? Does this funding relate to the warming centers that were operating at those DOE facilities during the snowstorms? Do you manage all energy-related expenditures for DOE? And if so, why by DCAS and not DOE? And what portion is covered by DCAS and what portion by DOE? The reason I ask this is it is complicated for those of us on the outside to know because you are so integrated.
Yes.
Other agencies. How does this all work? So how does the oil and DOE and you work?
This was obviously a very historic winter. in terms of the amount of snowfall and the many days of extreme cold. So we were called in to help, and there's an emergency emergency fuel task force which we helped coordinate, and it's sort of, so I guess the short answer is it is sort of like an additive effort on our part to sort of come in and sort of help them supplement their fuel. But Keith, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. On a day-to-day basis, New York City Public Schools has their own version of the DCAS fuel contract that they actually manage day-to-day. So on a day-to-day basis, we are not managing their fuel deliveries. Because of the extreme cold temperatures, there was really an enormous amount of demand on heating oil. There was also, in the broader marketplace, but also impacting city government, a dearth of available drivers. There's law that mandates how drivers have to have rest periods. And, our vendors were searching far and wide, getting drivers from other states. And so we came in to manage through our emergency contract which is actually not with the day-to-day vendor,
Okay.
a emergency trucking operation to support the public schools. So sanitation, DCAS, the fire department, the police department, the Department of Transportation, all using their city trucks to make sure that heating oil got delivered to the schools during really about a week to 10-day period when it was just incredibly cold, and we wanted to make sure there were no problems.
Okay, so basically that was your effort during that time period.
Well, it's a coordinating effort. So, like, for example, shout out to Department of Transportation, who in particular gave us a lot of drivers for this effort.
Absolutely.
So we coordinate other agencies to do it. So I don't want to steal their thunder, but I will say, like all things DCAS, quietly very dramatic behind the scenes.
And there was a cost, obviously, in addition to your usual budget. Do you have some numbers for that?
Yes, because it was an emergency, the cost was estimated around $300,000 a day.
Okay.
At the time, we didn't know how long it could have been, so we estimated, assuming we would need to do it for about 10 days.
Okay.
The actual cost came in a little lower, about a little over $1 million, so we intend to give the rest of the money back to DOE. So you may see that reversed in the next budget cycle.
Okay, thank you. The preliminary plan includes an additional $1.9 million in this intra-city funds for FY26, only from the DOE for geotab equipment. So what kinds of vehicles, DOE vehicles, are the geotab equipment used for? What are the metrics for tracking them? What's done with the data? And are all of DOE's vehicles equipped? And if the tab equipment, is it used on school buses for tracking? Now, we all know that the school bus issue is challenging on all fronts, since I get so many complaints. So I know you're working on this, and so I just want to understand it for the parents and for the public.
Okay, thank you. So all of New York City Public Schools city-owned vehicles, about 300 or so, are tracked through our Fleet Office of Real-Time Tracking, which is Geotab. That's funded through DCAS. But then DCAS also tracks a little bit more than 10,000 school buses live. So there is a local law that requires tracking, as you know, that was passed a number of years ago after a major sudden storm. The tracking for the school buses does happen through the Fleet Office of Real-Time Tracking with all the companies. We provide all of that information on a daily basis and, of course, live access to New York City Public Schools, to the Office of Pupil Transportation. Each company also has access to their information.
You mean each company, each busing company?
Each busing company also has access to their information, so they can be, and we are monitoring safety, utilization, idling, and many other
delivery times.
All kinds of indicators, right? The data is very robust. The actual management of the school buses is still, of course, the Office of Pupil Transportation. We're really the telematics support service, but we also develop a lot of reporting for them.
And what do you do with that data? The reason I ask, of course, is that unfortunately, you don't get the accolades for doing a great job. Everybody thinks this is all DOE, just so you know, in terms of this program. So my question is, what did the DOE use the data to try to improve? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And we, in the end, the Office of Pupil Transportation and the Department of Education, these are all contracted services through the Department of Education, not through DCAS. So ultimately, it's their charge, not DCAS's, to manage the school bus operation. But we are supporting them on a daily basis, providing safety reports, utilization reports, helping them analytically wherever they ask us to.
Okay. And it's your impression that all of the school buses are equipped?
All of them are equipped.
Okay.
And I will just add, I think it would be fun to have any council members here who are interested come see the fort where we do our fleet coordination as well.
I would like to do that. I think the bus contract is like 2.5 years. It's shorter than it has been in the past. So we'll see how this data helps with any future decisions about school buses. My disabled students often don't get there on time, so I have a lot of concerns. I think the city secured a federal grant to help purchase electric buses, but these funds have been slow to be dispersed. I didn't know if the funding went to DCAS or to DOE, and if you have any update about purchasing these electric school buses.
It goes to the DOE.
Those are the DOE, so they're the ones who are purchasing the very slow, not slow buses, but slow arriving federal money. They're dealing with it, not you.
Yes.
Okay, that's lucky for you, I would say. A couple of things. Goal 80 times 50. There's a carbon reduction goal to reduce 80% of our overall emissions, and I think you're, doing a great job by 2050, using 2006 as a baseline for our city. So do you feel that the 2006 baseline is a good measure, and have you assessed whether it can meet this mandate? The carbon reduction.
I'm not sure that we have any objection to the 2006 baseline, but
Okay.
I don't know.
But you feel like you can meet the mandate? I think that's a more important question.
I think we're, quite honestly, the law passed 6 years ago. So we've just been hustling to get to 2025 and 2030.
Right.
Now that we are kind of getting to that point where we can safely say we're pretty confident we're going to hit 50% by 30, now we're planning for the future.
Okay.
So,
All right. On solar, you've established a goal of 100 megawatts of solar on city-owned buildings by 2030 and 150 megawatts by the end of 2035. That's the 90 local law 99.
Yep.
How much has been installed? How much is set to be installed? And what funding do you have? And I guess one of my questions would be, again, you have your DCAS buildings, but do you also help the other
Yes.
buildings, of which there are many? So
Yes, especially schools. So to date,
I was going to ask about schools, yeah.
the city has completed over 204 solar installations, which is about 33.5 megawatts. 50% of the capacity is in disadvantaged communities. And we have in our pipeline 39.5 megawatts across 134 projects, 63% of which are in disadvantaged communities. And we're working very hard to identify other sites. These are basically sites that don't require roof repairs generally, is the ideal. So we do believe that we're on track and have the funding to do 100 by 2030.
Okay. I mean, this is a silly question, but again, the federal government, I don't think he likes wind. He doesn't like air. He doesn't like sunshine. So is it hard to get solar equipment? Obviously, I heard about the EV, but I didn't know if it's hard to, I don't know.
I think one of the things that has sort of, has the potential to impact is there was a federal credit for solar that has gone away. But I don't know if you want to add anything about the supply chain.
no, I think this, again, going back to 97 passing in 2019, shortly after that is COVID, shortly after that is supply chain disruptions,
Right.
basically this entire time since then. So, yes, it can be an issue and can be a cause
You haven't
to...
seen it be major at this point, though, so far. Because you are the ones who will be buying quite a bit of solar equipment, I would imagine.
We're proud of the progress we've made so far, in spite of these challenges. So I don't think we're at the point where we would say it's stopped us or blocked us, but it's something to navigate as we're continuing forward. Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. In terms of lighting, the preliminary commitment plan includes $630.9 million for 5 years, over 5 years, for direct installation of lighting systems in the schools. So how many schools does this funding provide for? Can you provide a list? Not necessarily right now. What's the scope of this program? What's the completion of this program? And they believe there's another 300 million planned for other DOE lighting projects. Can you provide a list and a timeline for the projects funded? And you just basically how many schools and how much it costs. I think general
So
idea.
I think you're talking about the direct install
Yep.
program, yeah.
Yep,
So
yep.
we've completed lighting upgrades in 367 schools, and we have 433 to go to achieve the 800 school target. And we've allocated 630 million in the capital plan to complete up to 800 additional schools after the original target is met. Do you want to add anything? No?
Okay. So you feel that you're on schedule, basically.
Yes, as with all things, we are working as fast as possible.
Okay. The citywide resiliency measures East Side Coastal Resilient Project, a project that you and I know very, very well.
I do indeed.
I feel like I have gray hair from that project. So the preliminary plan, the PCCB, includes 432.5 million across 5 years for citywide resiliency measures as part of this plan. What is the scope of the project and what's the estimated timetable and completion? Now you just have a small portion of it. It's a much bigger plan. But how are you involved and what's going on from your perspective?
Yeah. I will just say this is actually a DDC managed project, so
Yes.
I'll have to defer them on some of the details here.
Okay, all right. 70 Mulberry, another project that you and I know very
Yes.
well, because we spent some time when the fire took place, horrible fire. So it's 149.1 million across 5 years for reconstruction of 70 Mulberry. Can you give us an update? Can you tell us about the scope? What's going to happen in the future? I know it's not happening as fast as people would like, put it that way.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to pass the buck, but this is also a DDC managed project.
So you don't have anything to do with either one of these?
I mean, ultimately we will, but in terms of the
Managing
actual
project.
construction,
You'll
yeah.
be managing 70 Mulberry, for sure.
Yeah. They're currently in the process of amending the CP. They're working with OMB on that. 21 million. So the budget passes through our budget. So
Correct.
21 million has been registered already. I believe they're waiting on that amended CP to continue. But we would get more specific timelines from DDC on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can ask them too. Staten Island, I know, is Frank, yeah, he's going to ask. Go, Frank, you ask the Staten Island question. Not the forgotten borough, though. Go ahead.
Well, for starters, since I have the opportunity, I'd love to ask about the status of the borough flag that used to be atop of City Hall, and I know that was discontinued. And I'm wondering if there was a financial reason for that, or what our chances of getting each borough's flag flying above City Hall again might be.
Yeah. So I did look into this, and actually that falls under City Hall operations of the building, so it's not a DCAS decision.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
So in terms of Staten Island, the preliminary capital commitment plan includes $202 million across the 5-year plan for Staten Island's master plan, the phase 2 renovations. What's the scope of the work being done?
Which building are we talking about?
This is a court capital project.
Okay.
This is a DASNY managed project. Also, this is one of the ones where it's in our budget, but we're not actively managing it. It's being managed with OMB and state DASNY.
Understood.
Yep.
Got it. Let me see what else I might have. Could you give me a moment, Chair, to... Thank you. Please.
I'm very excited about your tours, I have to say. So you have money for one position, increasing to 172 for 2 positions to go to the top of 1 Center Street. So what are the 2 positions? What are they going to be doing? And then just talk a little bit about the $6 million, which is the capital amount to do. I guess you're going to put fences. We didn't believe in fences. We just did it. So I'm glad you're going to have a little fence around it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there are, I guess, 2 pieces to this. So the first is the personnel. We have, as you noted, we have 2 people that we're hiring for this. One is for IT to support the actual sort of reservation system. We need somebody to actually maintain that system. And then the other is a DCAS police officer who will help escort the tours up. And so that's what the 2 positions are. in terms of the 6 million, one of the things we're touting, of course, the public access that the people will be able to reserve from the city store, but the city store and online, I should say. But the 6 million obviously encompasses a much broader set of work, including redoing the facade and sort of repairing the tiles up there and stuff like that. So it's really a broader project that is about sort of restoring the cupola in general for future generations and making sure that it's able to sort of have a longer lifespan. So we're excited to do that work.
That elevator is pretty small.
It is a small elevator, yes.
Been on it.
Yes, intimate. I think that's what we like to say.
Very.
Yes.
So you'll have enough reservations wise, I guess you'll limit to be able to access the elevator in a safe manner.
It's 5 per tour, and then plus the person who will be accompanying them.
I have one more, Chair, if you would.
Go ahead.
Thank you. As obviously you know, DCAS manages the city's real estate portfolio and helps determine where agencies locate offices and services. Staten Island residents, as the chair was kind enough to point out, we often feel like our borough is forgotten and that we get fewer government service locations than other parts of the city. How does DCAS consider borough equity when deciding where to place new agency offices or leased facilities? And are there opportunities to expand city services on Staten Island?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, as we are sort of approaching every lease, we're obviously thinking about two things. One is how do we get the best deal for our taxpayers, and also about the operations of city agencies and what works for, whatever service they're providing. But I'll turn it to my executive deputy commissioner to sort of add some detail there.
So in general, we work with the agencies to determine what their catchment area is, and they use their, whatever their needs are, and either the public-facing services might dictate where they need to be, or their core operations or headquarters need to be. So certainly, if there's something that you think an agency needs to, have an additional presence, then we can talk about that and work with the agency to see what that would look like.
Just sitting here the other day at the Department for the Aging, there was a discussion about 14 Wall Street and the fact that it seemed really expensive in terms of their moving from, as an agency, into there. I think that somebody from the public or from a council member asked that it was almost as expensive as the entire budget of the agency. So can you talk a little bit about 14 Wall Street, how that got determined as a location, and how you're going to look at it in the future? Because I'm sure it's lovely for the Department for the Aging, but we're all trying to figure out how to save money. So
yeah, I think
the best deal we could get.
I'm not. We did see our sister agency testify, and I think we weren't sure what number that was referring to. But I will say that the way that we do leasing, we think of it in terms of the term of the lease. Usually, when it's a budget number, so it may seem larger than it actually is. It's not an annualized number. So that was my guess that that's maybe what the reaction is to that, the specifics of that deal. I will just say, I know one of the first things that I did when I started was I went over to 2 Lafayette just to see the DIFTA space and sort of assess the conditions there. And I know that they're very anxious to get into newly renovated space. So that obviously is something that we're very anxious to do for them.
Okay. And then I know we heard earlier about the need to do applications and information about civil service. There was a story in the city the other day about 31 people hired from the 80,000 people who applied for the Mandami administration. This was coming into office. I know that. So my question is, I don't know if it's possible to have some conversation with those 80,000 applicants. 31 were hired from that list. So to say, sorry, you can apply for civil service, that would make sense because you need, or maybe they're not interested, who knows? Is there some way to do that, or is that not possible software-wise or some other way?
Yeah, we're looking into that. That was actually a question that I asked when I started as well. I think it's a separate system, obviously, from the hiring that we do. But obviously, if there's an opportunity to sort of do something there, we'd be very open to it. It's just, I think a question of, where that data is stored and how easy it is to sort of speak to between the two systems.
All right, I think that's helpful. I think the main takeaway for me is you need more money to buy more electric vehicles. And so I would say that that is the takeaway that I have from this conversation. Thank you very much, and we look
Thank you,
forward to the
Councilmember.
next, the Law Department.
Yes, thank you.
You didn't forget. I'm just letting you know that. Okay. Just letting you know that my understanding is that we'll do it before we start. Yeah.
I love DCAS hearings because when they're done, like everyone leaves the room. They like bring everyone.
Who's testifying from the board of elections?
Mike Ryan and me.
Is anybody else coming besides the two of them? Like, is Georgia or?
I don't know who's coming, but I think they're the ones to testify.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
He said he's coming back.
he's coming back.
Veronica's coming back, yeah.
Okay, any
I
other?
don't when exactly, but who was just here?
That's
Oh, that's
Moran.
Verona.
That's Moran.
Those are my sunglasses. I was like, where's
If any other council member who's not on the committee shows up,
That's right.
yeah, then they can ask questions. We have four.
We don't.
We did.
We did. But we have to have quorum at the time. It's not that we have quorum at any time.
I thought it was you just had to have a quorum within the duration of the.
I thought it was you had to have. They can only ask while we have quorum.
Oh, it's a while. Okay.
Yep.
Never
Yep.
mind. I don't know anything.
Oh, but Santuso's not on our committee, and Felice is gone. So, I mean, I guess.
Oh, that's so fun there.
Yes. Well, Santuso could have asked questions. One, two. We get Morano back. 3.
We'll only have 3 in the room.
Oh no, Lee's not a committee member. So Lee said he's coming back. Yeah. Did you get the? Flex from law?
No, not yet.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for being here, Law Department. So this hearing will be with the Law Department. We had DCAS before, as you know. I want to welcome the newly confirmed, but not new, Corporation Counsel Steve Banks. The Law Department's fiscal 27 preliminary budget is $345.1 million, is my understanding, which is $68.3 million more than the fiscal 26 adopted budget, and it's partly due to funding in the preliminary plan for additional attorneys and support staff, which are desperately needed. The Law Department, as we know, represents the city, the mayor, city agencies, city council, and other city elected officials in civil litigation matters. The preliminary plan includes $46.1 million in new needs, growing to $67.2 million in FY27, and in the out years for additional legal staff at the agency, court-appointed monitors, which are also expensive, and special masters, which are expensive, and for the remediation manager costs mandated for the Department of Correction. I look forward to learning more today, we all do, about how the Law Department plans to hire for the new positions, how they will be used to save the city money on tort liability in particular, and how the agency will respond to the mayor's savings mandate. And I'm delighted that Councilmember Stevens is here. So now you need, who's on? Yeah, Santa Suaza is on. She's having a baby soon, and so she's not here. We're very excited about the baby.
Not right now.
No, but soon.
Yeah. He looks like it's she right now. No, but she's not late right now.
Soon. You need to be sworn in. Go ahead.
All right, we will now hear testimony from the administration. Before we begin, I will administer the oath of affirmation. Panelists, please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee and to respond honestly to council member questions? Yes. All right, you may begin when ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Brewer, members of the committee, as well as other members of the council who may come during the course of the hearing. It's a pleasure to come before you to discuss the Law Department's fiscal year 2027 preliminary budget. I'm joined by First Assistant Corporation Counsel Cheryl Neufeld, Managing Attorney Eric Eichenholz, and Chief of Administration Jenny Nagel-Einigoin. The Law Department represents the city, the mayor, the city council, other elected officials, and the city's agencies in all affirmative and defensive civil litigation. The department brings proceedings in family court with alleging violations of criminal laws and represents the people of the state of New York in proceedings filed in the criminal court to enforce the city's administrative code. Law Department attorneys draft and review local and state legislation, real estate leases, procurement contracts, financial instruments for the sale of municipal bonds. The department also provides legal counsel to city officials on a wide range of issues such as civil rights, education, intellectual property, land use, and environmental policy. The department's work embraces all entities and operations. Our work impacts all areas of daily living in New York City. The department currently has approximately 785 assistant corporation counsels and 600 legal support professionals. We're proud to be a leader in the legal profession with approximately 31% of our lawyers racially and ethically diverse and 58% women. Over the past few years, headcount reductions have impaired the law department's ability to fulfill its mission in representing the city, its elected officials, including the council and other city entities. The 200 new attorney lines and 100 professional support lines provided to the law department in the proposed budget will be allocated to support all areas of the law department. This increased staffing will help mitigate the increases in monetary settlements and payouts resulting from a number of factors, including the law department's reduced headcount in the past administration. The increase in staff will allow us to restore our ability to settle meritorious cases earlier and make dispositive motions and try cases that lack merit, reducing payouts in both types of cases. Other new staff will focus on enhancing the law department's ability to advise and support the city through legal advice and affirmative litigation initiatives. This new staffing will also enable the department to increase the provision of risk assessments in order to help agencies reform practices and avert litigation against the city in the first place. Through all of this, we'll advance the city's affordability agenda as well as the interests of the city, the mayor, the council, and other elected officials. A large focus of the law department's work this past year has been addressing potential challenges regarding federal funding requirements, which have changed and evolved rapidly over the past year. To do so, we have set up a special team to focus exclusively on these emerging challenges. Our work has already been critical, safeguarding billions of dollars in federal grants that touch on all aspects of municipal life, including infrastructure, policing, housing, social services, and mission-critical objectives such as disaster mitigation and counterterrorism efforts. With the increased staffing, we'll be positioned to litigate affirmatively and defensively to protect the city's rights and interests. For example, we brought a lawsuit to protect funding the city received from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, in accordance with federal law to reimburse the city for services to asylum seekers. We sued to protect New York City Public Schools' magnet school funding that was cut based upon purported violations of Title IX due to the public schools' guidelines to support transgender and gender-expansive students. We also joined coalitions of other cities and states to challenge grant conditions that violated federal law because they intended to commandeer the recipients to enforce federal immigration policy and federal executive orders, among other things. Similarly, we filed and joined more than 25 amicus briefs on topics such as immigration enforcement, federal funding, deployment of the National Guard, and New Yorkers' rights and benefits to ensure that the city's voice is heard as courts consider these emergent legal issues, even in circumstances in which the city is not a party. At my confirmation hearing before the council last month, I emphasized the importance of the law department being promptly attentive to the needs of all of its individual and institutional clients, including the council and council members. Since assuming the position of Corporation Counsel, I'm pleased to report that we have been working in collaboration with the Speaker and the Council in a number of areas. Individual members of the Council have also reached out to me directly to discuss matters of concern. Our office will continue to work side by side with council staff on crafting legislation, providing legal advice in a timely manner, and ensuring legal clarity and defensibility in doing so. An excellent example of this is our recent work together on procurement reform legislation. The department's work in both revenue saving and revenue generating. For example, in FY25, the department saved the city $128 million by resolving $140 million in claims and contractual disputes for a total payment of only $12 million. Similarly, the department's defense of real property tax assessments protected $96 million in property tax receipts in FY25 and almost $65 million during the first half of FY26, which preserve funding for city services. During this fiscal year so far, the department has recovered over $35 million for the city and its entities. This includes monetary recoveries for property damage, breach of contract, restitution, False Claims Act cases, securities fraud, public health and safety matters, including anti-youth vaping and tenant protection code enforcement cases, and opioid settlement payments, among other things. In this fiscal year, collection law firms supervised by the division have recovered another $30 million. In addition to recovering monetary damages, the department sues to enjoin unlawful and harmful practices that cause or contributed to a public nuisance or otherwise negatively affect public health and safety. For example, we are currently litigating against Kia and Hyundai over their failure to install industry-standard engine immobilizing technology in low-end models of their vehicles, which, when highlighted as part of a TikTok challenge, led to massive spikes in thefts of those models in the city, as well as dangerous driving, property damage, injuries, and deaths. We're also currently litigating against 4 major social media companies for harms that have resulted to the mental health of young people and the cost those harms imposed on the city as a result of the deliberate design, marketing, and operation of addicted social media platforms which intentionally target youth. And as reported yesterday, we recently obtained a ruling assessing $2.1 million in fines against a landlord who has failed to make repairs to a residential building and $1,000 in ongoing daily fines until the conditions are corrected. These cases and other litigation aim to change behavior by compelling compliance with city law and policy, to enhance public health and safety, and to protect New Yorkers from unlawful and harmful conduct. We also anticipate saving the city over $1 million in this fiscal year in payments from the Judgment and Claims Fund through our continuing activity to compel insurance companies to defend and identify the city. This program, which began in the late 1990s, has saved more than $3 billion in judgments and claims payments through insurance takeovers since its inception. Every case that the insurance company steps in to defend is a case that does not have to be defended by city attorneys, thus saving enormous legal resources. Settlements and judgments paid by insurers in cases falling within the policy coverage also save the city substantial sums. The law department also represents the city in more than 70,000 cases annually. We continue to experience an increase in pending cases. Approximately half of our pending cases, some 35,000, involve tort matters. These pending cases include a large number of Adult Survivor Act and Child Victims Act cases, and we anticipate a continued influx of these cases, which involve claims of misconduct that occurred many years ago. We also expect a continued increase in Gender-Motivated Violence Act cases with claims for past conduct. Given the significant impact of these cases on the city, we are looking for solutions to give the city certainty regarding exposure while properly compensating survivors with meritorious claims. The department also serves as the statutory mandated presentment agency for all juvenile justice, adolescent offender, interstate child support cases referred to the New York City Family Court. Under the rehabilitative mandate of the Family Court Act, the department must work to achieve outcomes that serve the needs of each individual young person brought before the court, while at the same time protecting the interests of crime victims and ensuring the safety of the community at large. Law Department attorneys also appear in the New York City family courts to handle petitions to establish parentage and obtain, modify, or enforce existing child support orders. In 2025, juvenile justice case referrals increased by 11%, from 7740 to 6964 referrals. In 2024, 66% of the referrals represent felony charges. In 2025, there were 348 firearms cases referred to the department, which is a decrease of 15% from 411 firearms cases in 2024. The number of child support referrals in 2025 remained virtually the same, with 1,889 child support referrals in 2024 and 1,894 in 2025. My testimony today provides an overview of the very broad and varied legal work performed by the Law Department. By keeping the interests of all New Yorkers at the center of our work, we can do what is right and just, solve problems, reinforce trust in government, and help meet the needs of New Yorkers. I thank you for your support for the Law Department and look forward to our continued collaboration. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. We've been joined by the speaker, and she has her first question. And then I'm going to ask the woman who's having the baby soon for a question.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. So thank you, Steve, for being here. We appreciate it. Got a couple questions for you. The 9/11 files, as you know, this is something that is very important to the City Council. The fact that the city has sat on these 9/11 files for years, the fact that thousands of people became sick and died of cancer because the city did not disclose the fact that the air was not safe to breathe, in conjunction with the federal EPA and former EPA head Christy Todd Whitman. So my question is, and I had asked this during the confirmation hearing, what is the status of the release of the 9/11 files?
Thank you for that question. I can report that since I was confirmed a couple of weeks ago, we have set up a team that is reviewing what documents can be posted on a portal to provide access to the public and the cost for maintaining such public access, and what documents cannot be posted. For example, documents with personal information or individuals such as medical information. We're also looking at the cost of determining what documents cannot be posted. We will keep you posted on what we are doing, but that's what we've done the last several weeks, and we're working on this very hard to be able to, as I said, post documents available to the public, having made a determination of which ones can't be posted and which ones can, with the ones that can't be really ones that involve individual people's personal identifying information in their medical records.
I mean, obviously, we don't want to post people's personal identifying information, but I'm going to urge you in the Law Department to be as fulsome as possible in the release of the records. How quickly will that portal be up and running, and how quickly do you think that the documents will be released to the public?
I think the key fact here, you have my commitment to be as fulsome as possible, but I think the key factor is there are tens of thousands of documents, and to review them properly so we don't have a repeat of what just happened when the federal government released records. We want to make sure that what we release are in fact not revealing people's personal information.
Okay, I'm going to ask that you update my office directly with this so that we understand when the portal is up and running, which documents have been released so that we are aware of the timeline and that when these documents are actually public.
Absolutely, we'll keep you advised.
I know, I appreciate that. The second question I have follows up on something I asked during the confirmation hearing, which is on Timothy Pearson, and is the Law Department still representing Mr. Pearson?
I have reviewed Timothy Pearson's right to legal representation at the city's expense under the general municipal law in 4 related matters. Based upon my review of new evidence since the original decisions were made, I have determined that he is not entitled to representation by the city in these matters. Thus, the city will no longer pay for Mr. Pearson's legal representation. Similarly, based on my review of new evidence, I have also determined that Jeffrey Madry is not entitled to representation under the general municipal law in the 4 lawsuits involving allegations against Mr. Pearson. As such, the city will no longer pay for Mr. Madry's legal representation in those matters.
This is excellent. I want to commend you. I want to commend the law department for reaching what is the right decision in this matter. Neither Mr. Pearson or Mr. Madry should have ever been represented by the city law department. And I hope that then this will serve as a clear warning sign that those types of representations, which are clearly compromised, will not happen again. So thank you for doing that.
I appreciate it. Thank you for asking me to do it, and thank you for your response.
I have one last question, which is, having worked at the city law department, which is something I'm incredibly proud of that experience. I know the importance of all the work that you're doing, and you're serving also as our council, which we really appreciate, the agency council, all the work that the law department does in so many different areas. You have a lot of vacancies. What's the status of the filling of those vacancies? What are the plans to do so?
Thank you for that question as well. So we are very pleased to have 200 attorney lines and 100 support professional lines in the budget. We have experience, by the way, with hiring 200 lawyers when I was at the Legal Aid Society in a very relatively short period of time. We have an excellent in-house recruitment team that is already well advanced in terms of recruiting the class of entry-level assistant corporation counsels. And we are on track for the things we've been doing internally to hire significant numbers of staff over the course of the next number of months. We will complete this certainly during this fiscal year or this coming fiscal year, FY27, and as soon as possible during the fiscal year because of the urgent need to fill these positions in order to do two things. One is to fill lines that have been hollowed out as a result of the last administration. The need for those kinds of lawyers is prevalent in when we look at things like judgment and claims. But also we want to make sure that we have enough lawyers to take on the kinds of things that we think will help New Yorkers in their everyday lives. Like, for example, the announcement yesterday of the $2.1 million fines and $1,000 a day fines with respect to a landlord on the worst landlords list. So we have two goals. One is to be able to return ourselves to the strength that we think is needed, and two, to be able to be ready to move forward with the kinds of needs that New Yorkers have. And appreciate your championing the law department, given your role as a speaker, but also your role as a former member of the law department.
Great. Thank you so much. Those are my questions. Thank you.
I just want to follow up on 9/11. So I really do appreciate the fact that you understand the importance of this. It was certainly the DOI that I think got the discussion started before you started, and when I was chair of oversight and investigations. And now I understand that there was an answer to a FOIL. Now there's a response. So that's sort of what you're going on in terms of the time frame, trying to figure out the previous response that law department made on FOIL, and now you're taking up when they've sent a second letter.
Yeah, I think there's and I appreciate that you had reached out to me and would had conversations about this. I think that the challenge is to address the situation which is built up over several decades. We want to be expeditious, we want to be fast, we want to be responsible. The FOIL law has much tighter timeframes than we can be responsible in responding to. So we want to be respectful of the people that filed a recent FOIL request, respond to them, and try to address their concerns in the context of whatever appeal they're filing. But you have on the record what we're attempting to do. Might there be disputes about how fast we're acting? I think the speaker has made it clear that, and we do speak quite frequently, that this will be a topic of our ongoing conversations, and maybe that will give some solace to the people who are pressing for these documents. As I said at my confirmation hearing, this is also personal to me. My daughter, then in the 5th grade, was at school on Chambers and Greenwich Street and was one of the young children evacuated as the buildings were coming down. So I am well aware of how urgent it is that we should act, and we are moving with urgency.
Thank you. And that's great news about Mr. Pearson and Mr. Madry. Do you know how much money we would be saving, or how much money has already been allocated to their legal assistance?
The total amount that had already been paid out in these cases that I was referring to is approximately $645,000.
Okay. So that's what will be saved in the future, plus. Okay.
Just for the record, Chair, we can't predict exactly how much it would have been. It
No,
could
I
be
understand that.
spending at a higher rate, spending at a lower rate.
Don't know.
But we won't be spending this money anymore.
Okay, thank you. From the council member Sarah Sousa, who's on the Zoom, I am reading her question because she cannot ask it. What mechanisms can the law department take to reduce our average settlement costs? You alluded to that. And utilizing the risk department could help prevent liability before it occurs and thus result in savings. What is the plan to boost the influence of this department across agency operations?
So
And again, a person also who worked at the law department at one point.
first and foremost, congratulations and wishing you all the best. Secondly, at my confirmation hearing, I appreciated very much the council member's questions based upon her experience in working in some of these units. For the record, the law department did establish or has established a risk unit that is intended to look at the kinds of problems that arise in these cases that are featured in the judgment and claims number. The additional hiring will enable us to enhance that unit so that we can be proactive and address underlying problems that lead to the judgments and claims. I think, as the council member correctly pointed out, when we have appropriate staffing, we can assess cases at an earlier point in the litigation and therefore make settlements at a rate and at a level that we are unable to do when the case is in a much later stage of litigation. But to level set, in taking the kind of comprehensive look that we are going to be taking at these cases, we may well settle more cases initially that might show up in our budget number, but the aim is to get to a place where we can make reforms to reduce the numbers of the amounts and the numbers of the payouts.
Okay. Councilmember Ressler can't be here. These people love asking you questions. So I understand the contracts division of the law department has 13 attorneys responsible for reviewing every single contract that the city's executing, in addition to doing other things. They do a great job, but that's not a lot of people for reviewing $40 billion in contracts. So do you have plans to add more attorneys to this division? Does the law department track contract delays and how long each contract is under law review? And do you have plans to increase the tech expertise of the division to help on review of the increasing tech contracts, obviously AI being in there, I assume, that the city is executing?
We will be increasing the staffing in the contracts area, and we'll be evaluating what kind is needed based upon the contracts. I think, as Councilmember Ressler knows, addressing procurement issues is near and dear to my heart as a former head of a nonprofit and then the former head of an agency that had about 25% of the city contracts. And I have a number of approaches that we're going to be taking to try to address what has been a problem for many years in terms of contract processing in the city.
Okay. I have many more questions, but Councilmember Lee, you have questions?
Yes. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
And I too love talking about procurement reform. So, as a former nonprofit head too.
I think we talked about some of the needs for procurement reform
did.
before my confirmation hearing.
Yeah, no, we did. Okay, so really quickly about the court's appointed monitors and special masters new need. The preliminary budget includes $36.6 million in city funding in FY26 with a baseline $9.3 million in city funding beginning in FY27. And this funding is for such expenses as special masters, experts, court-appointed monitors. And so how were these funding amounts determined?
Well, to give an example, that budget line includes the recent appointment of the remedial manager for Rikers Island, and that was a court-approved amount of money to pay for the special master. I'm sorry, for the remediation manager in addition to the court monitor. So maybe if we could take a step back, one of the things we're looking at is all the cases that have monitors or special masters or different levels of oversight, and what can we do to work with agencies to begin to bring the agencies to a place where the oversight can be phased out. The oversight is there because problems have built up over many years. And one of the things that we want to be able to do is to work with the agencies to begin to get to a place where that kind of oversight is not needed. In terms of the core of your question, the amounts are being set in the context of the litigations that are involved, as opposed to the law department independently establishing the rates.
Got it. Okay, helpful to know. Thank you. And do you anticipate additional funding being needed in FY27 and in the out years?
I mean, we're in a situation in which we've just gotten funding for 200 lawyers and 100 support professionals. In my experience, both in the not-for-profit sector, which I know you have as well, and my experience in government over the course of 8 years, that is an extraordinary commitment to the work of the law department. At the same time, we want to be good partners with OMB in addressing cost containment wherever we can.
Mm-hmm. And what major cases is the funding associated with for the new needs? I think it was.
The funding is associated with our overall need to restaff. The funding is associated with our overall need to restaff vacancies throughout the department, including in the areas that the speaker asked me about and the chair asked me about in terms of the tort area, the risk assessment, the contracts, and so many areas of the department. There's been reduced staffing over the past 4 years. In addition, we want to be able to staff up to be able to meet the moment we're in. And so the shortest answer to give you is all parts of the law department will be receiving additional staffing that need it in order to manage the workload and to be able to respond to new needs that are coming in.
Perfect. And just lastly, on the payout for judgments and claims, the payouts for the judgment and claims against the city and state federal courts decreased by 49.7% during the first 4 months of FY26 when compared to the same period last year. And in FY25, payments for judgments totaled $1.38 billion, down from $1.52 billion in FY24. So to what do you attribute the decrease in judgments and claims payouts?
I think it's the vagaries of litigation. One of the big drivers for these cost increases over the years with the Child Victims Act cases, the adult survivor cases, and now the gender-motivated bias cases. And there'll be ebbs and flows of litigation in terms of when those payments will be made. As I said a little bit earlier, we're looking for ways to address those categories of cases that both recognize the city's financial challenges, but also the need to compensate survivors. And so in the short run, there may be increases in some of those areas. But the aim here is to get to a place where we're driving the judgment and claims down by addressing the underlying reasons why people bring lawsuits against the city.
Yep. And which agencies are the largest portion of the judgment and claims related to?
I mean, there are a number of agencies. There's been public reporting on some of them. We can certainly give you a breakdown if that would be helpful to you.
Yes, that'd be great. And just which ones have seen the biggest increases over the last few years and largest decreases?
Yeah, I think that might be rather than calling out individual agencies and making estimates, it'd probably be more helpful to you to give you a written response about those numbers.
Perfect. And lastly, will additional staffing provided to the law department further decrease this number, I would assume?
The law department, additional staffing in the torts department in particular, will certainly help us with early assessment of cases and early determinations about settlement, reduce the ultimate amounts that are paid out. Also, assessments of cases in early stage help in the cases that should be litigated to put us in a better position to prevail for the city.
Okay, great.
A number of the cases we have now in our pending caseload, again, like 35,000 of the 70,000 cases are in the tort area. Those are for conduct that has occurred in years past. So the ability to do what I told the speaker we're going to do, which is to assess the risks with enhancing our risk unit, is going to take some time for us to start to see the outcomes. We'll be doing the work on an expedited basis, but since there's a lag by a number of years between something that happens in a lawsuit, there may be some time before we're actually able to effectively drive down those numbers as much as we would like to by avoiding the need for people to sue the city in the first place.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Morano?
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Banks. It's great to see you again. Congratulations on your appointment and your confirmation. New York City taxpayers, as you've been talking about, they pay hundreds of millions of dollars each year in settlements and judgments. I know when Councilmember Lee was asking you about this, you didn't want to mention specific agencies in this forum, which I understand. I'm wondering if you could identify the 3 categories of cases that are costing the city the most money and what policy changes we might look at or the administration might look at to reduce those costs going forward.
I mean, it's a great question. And again, it's not that I'm unwilling to give the agencies. I just think it would be better to have you look at a full presentation that way. I mean, there are disputes that arise when the public interacts with members of the government. And that happens across agencies. It could be the police department. It could be the Taxi and Limousine Commission. There are, torts that arise in connection with potholes. A number of them, as you probably heard in the last couple of days, are being filled to avoid that kind of problem. So, I think it would be out of context to just say these 3 are the most common problems, because I think what I have known from my own time as a civil rights lawyer is that when government and people interact, there's the potential for friction, and then that potential for friction results in potential lawsuits. I see the law department's role as not simply defending those cases, but what can we do to minimize that kind of friction between the public and the government.
Your testimony references a number of lawsuits and amicus briefs involving federal policy and national issues. How does the law department decide when it's appropriate for the city of New York to involve itself in a broader political or policy dispute rather than focusing primarily on defending the city from litigation and protecting taxpayers?
I would certainly answer that question. I would want to modify your question slightly, which is to say our determination to get involved with litigation, either if it's us suing affirmatively or joining an amicus, is when there's a financial interest of the city at stake. So to the extent that funding for Head Start is at risk, or to the extent there's funding for our housing programs are at risk, those are the kinds of situations that we would want to make sure that the city's interests are represented, given the potential for a substantial loss of dollars for critical city services. That was just to give an example, when there was the potential loss of counterterrorism funds, which would have had a tremendous impact, particularly here in Lower Manhattan. That was the kind of case that the law department would get involved in, given the financial impact on a very important city service.
You mentioned litigation related to FEMA reimbursements for services provided to asylum seekers. Can you give us a sense of how much money the city is currently seeking to recover, and what the law department assessment is of our likelihood of actually recovering those funds?
My recollection is that was approximately $80 million that were dispersed to New York City based upon an act of Congress, and the city has had success at various stages of that case. In the grand scheme of things, every $80 million counts.
Your testimony also mentions that insurance takeovers have saved the city billions of dollars over time. Are there additional areas where the city could require more robust insurance coverage from contractors or vendors so taxpayers aren't left covering litigation costs?
Among the areas that our risk team will be looking at are those kinds of issues.
Obviously, there's a lot of attention, as always, paid to what's going on in the world of social media. And the law department's currently suing several social media companies over youth mental health. and other related issues. What specific damage is the city seeking, and how confident are you that the city will actually recover meaningful financial compensation?
Any good lawyer would always tell you I'm very confident in the cases that we have pending, and we intend to litigate them vigorously. But they are, again, the city's interest is the cost that the city is paying for services for young people who are caught up in the kind of social media efforts that we are addressing in the litigation.
Final question. You referenced the continued influx of Adult Survivors Act and Child Victims Act cases. What's the estimated long-term financial exposure for the city, and how's the law department preparing for that?
Yeah, I think that the estimated impact is something that is still being developed because the cases are still coming in. And in fact, there were additional modifications that were made in terms of people's ability to file those claims, so they still could ripen in the future, as opposed to it was a closed time period and none could be filed. So projecting the city's potential ultimate financial exposure, it's literally a moving target given the ability of people to continue to file those cases. What we're doing about it, as I said in the testimony a little bit earlier, was looking for ways in which we can address the cases that are both in the city's financial interest, but also respectful of the real needs of survivors of the kind of conduct that caused the legislature to originally pass those kinds of acts. Thanks for those questions.
Thank you. One question I had was the external legal counsel. The plan includes an additional $1 million in intra-city funding in Nycc, only from the Department of Education to extend their use of an external legal counsel contract held by the law department by 1 year. The plan also includes another $240,000 of intra-city funding in Nycc, only from the Department of Environmental Protection to utilize the department's contract with external legal counsel. Can you talk about these two opportunities and situations, what legal matter is being addressed, and why are external law firms required? And do you see a need for further funding in this area?
Well, the environmental protection one is just a good example of why contracts are some periodically needed. There's particular expertise in water rights that are relevant to the kinds of advice and potential litigation support.
Upstate, the Croton situation, upstate Croton?
No, I think it would be best in a public forum not to get into what exactly the matter is.
Okay. I've been up to Croton and seen all those issues.
It's not that one, though.
Okay, all right.
But it involves particular water right issues that ultimately the expertise will be really important for us in terms of defending the city's interest.
And then there's the DOE also.
The DOE is that kind of advice is also relevant to a whole range of different legal matters that they have. There are times when the law department will say we don't have in-house expertise. One of the challenges in the last several years is whether the law department had the internal resources, and the additional staffing will help us be able to make judgments about whether to go and get external counsel in fewer instances because we'll have the in-house expertise.
Okay, you talked a little bit about...
Sorry, we'll have the in-house resources.
So hopefully less outside counsel.
When we have the resources as opposed to the particularized expertise, which it's more cost-effective to seek outside help than to build expertise that may only be needed periodically.
Okay. You talked about juvenile detention a little bit, but the plan includes an additional $21 million of state funding in Nycc that replaces city funding for the department's role providing support service related to juvenile justice. What role does the law department play in juvenile justice, and what is the total amount of funding in the budget for costs associated with juvenile justice? And I didn't know if the state would do this or if it's back to the city. And the reason we ask, of course, there are so many more young people, as you know, in detention than in the past.
Right. I mean, the law department's role is representing the city's interest in
Right.
in those matters. The additional state funding is part of a state assumption of certain responsibilities in this area, and those dollars will help us continue to provide the services. The family court, as you know, is a court of rehabilitation, and therefore it's particularly important that our lawyers work with the array of services that are available to help youth move on a positive pathway forward. And that's the additional resources will help us do that.
So I think we all know a lot of situations that exist in family court. Is that a place where some of your new attorneys might also be situated? Because it's a very slow process between ACS, et cetera. It's a slow process.
All across the agency, including our lawyers that represent the agency in family court. That will be one of the areas where we'll be providing some additional support. As I said at the outset, almost every area of the law department suffered pretty significant staffing impact
Okay.
over the last 4 years.
We talked about correction a little bit earlier. The plan includes $4.3 million in city funding in 2.6, increasing to a baseline $9.8 million in 2.7 for this new manager, which I guess we now have from Judge Swain, we have a name. So how were these amounts determined? Was it just the court? Do you going to need more funding? I guess maybe you don't know. And then, how do you make sure that people are on the remediate manager's team? And I guess also back to what you said earlier, fix the problem, and then you don't need the remediation. So this is a big challenge.
Well, on this, I would say we've met with the remediation manager. Ms. Neufeld and I have met with the remediation manager, both of us on a number of different occasions. I think that we've met with the remediation manager along with Commissioner, the new DSC commissioner, who we both know for many years.
Stanley Richards.
And I think that this is a good moment to make some progress. And the remediation manager sees his role as helping us get to a place where the agency can operate without a remediation manager. That is a good start. In terms of setting the level of the funding, it was based upon the remediation manager's desire to presentation of what he needed, and ultimately it was with the approval of the court, and the law department would be reviewing the request for payment.
Okay. I know in terms of new needs, just so we're clear, obviously more attorneys and more support staff. Is that the list that you want us to come away with, of course? Are there any other new needs if you had your druthers that you would like to have at the law department? Obviously, funding is always the issue.
Having 200 lawyers and 100 support professionals is just a really, really important step forward to help rebuild the staff from the staffing cuts. And we'll be working with OMB in terms of addressing any needs we have, but also our role in the overall city efforts to save dollars. So we're going to be good partners.
Okay. And the state budget, obviously there's a preliminary governor's budget, there's a couple of one-house budgets, et cetera. Did you see anything in those that would positively or negatively have any impact on what you're doing? Obviously there's policy in there, there's budget in there, et cetera. On the state level.
I think the state budget process is still underway. You and I have both learned from being involved in it over many years that it's not ended till it's ended.
Okay, because I know we'd love to see some of the money that comes here. And then we heard a little bit about the federal issues. I am very supportive of what you've been doing, be it Head Start, food stamps, the list is endless. And so I am very supportive of any efforts you can make for us New Yorkers on the federal level in terms of litigation.
Thank you.
But have you done, I mean, you don't know what's next, what's the next shoe to drop in terms of issues, but do you have any sense of what guidelines, you talked about it a little bit, may impact the city? And are there any budget that have been modified in response to changes in federal guidelines? Again, we don't know what's coming next.
Yeah, I think, you've answered your own question in a certain regard because we have to be ready. And I've learned in years of as a litigator not to predict what's coming next, but just to be ready for everything.
Okay. Anything else? You have anything else? No? Okay. Thank you very much, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone's time today.
Next will be the Board of Elections. You look pretty good yourself.
You may need a new prescription then, Gail.
That Island guy.
Exactly.
That Island guy.
Exactly.
You'll be right there, sir. Right around, yep, under the clock. Yep, that one. No, one. No, the one next.
I got to sit next to him.
Yeah, you got to sit next to Vinny.
Okay.
All Staten Island.
Yes, I'm glad too.
T.
How are you?
Who's-
Thank you.
That's okay. I didn't know that was a rule.
You damn well know what the rules are.
Why? None of the rules. I guess, I didn't realize. Even unless you're now. But even Miranda?
They gotta have one rule for everybody. Exactly.
That's what I mean.
The Board of Elections fiscal 27 preliminary budget totals 146.9 million, which is the same as its budget in the fiscal 26 adopted budget, according to my notes. The Board of Elections is responsible for the implementation of fair and honest elections within the city pursuant to state law, playing a major role in educating New Yorkers on their right to vote and administering elections. The plan includes one new need of $32.5 million in fiscal 26 to support election costs in fiscal 26. I look forward to learning more about the Board of Elections election costs, how early voting locations are selected, always a discussion point, maintaining voter privacy, and how we can increase voting access for justice-involved individuals. And now I'd like to turn it over to be sworn in for the presenters.
We will now hear testimony from the Board of Elections. Before we begin, I will administer the affirmation. Panelists, please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do, yes.
Okay. You may begin when ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Brewer and Councilman Morano. My name is Michael Ryan. I'm the Executive Director of the Board of Elections, and joining me today is the board's Deputy Executive Director, Vincent Ignazio, who is well known to this body as well. We have prepared testimony. We've submitted the written testimony. We're prepared to rely on the written submission if that sits well with with Madam Chair, and move on to any questions that the committee members may have.
I think you should go ahead and read your testimony. That's fine, so the public knows what you're saying. Yep.
Okay, so we'll review the 2026 fiscal year, which we always do in our budget testimony. We want to thank the mayor's office and the city council for providing the necessary support to the board for fiscal year 2026. That funding met the constitutional and statutory mandates, as well as the needs of the voters of the city of New York. I extend a special thank you for addressing the board's funding needs during these very difficult times. In FY 2026, the board conducted several election events, including the mayoral general election conducted on November 4th, 2025, special elections for the State Senate District 47, New York State Assembly Districts 36 and 74, conducted on February 3rd, 2026. We will conduct another special election for the 3rd Council District on April 28th, 2026, and the June primary for federal and state offices. Each of these election events includes 9 days of early voting. The board successfully maintained 156 voting sites across all 5 boroughs under the Make Voting Easy Act, ensuring accessible voting for all contests. In fiscal year 2026, the board managed multiple election events with significant turnout across the general election and primary and special elections, and total operating expenses estimated at $263 million, which would include personal services of $126 million and other than personal services of $137 million. Poll workers and related seasonal costs represented a major factor, followed by leases, services, printing, and transportation. Voter outreach generated substantial impressions throughout various media channels and operations maintained at the 156 early voting sites with minimal equipment issues. The board complies with the New York State election law requirements for mail ballot canvassing, requiring extended public access prior to Election Day, the statewide online mail ballot application and tracking portal, online voter registration, and automatic voter registration initiatives. Such compliance has ongoing effects on or ongoing budget and fiscal implications. The board works closely with the Office of Management and Budget to manage these mandates and finalize funding for all elections. In addition, the board works very closely with the New York State Attorney General to ensure full compliance with the New York State Voter Rights Act, which is also known as the John Lewis Voter Rights Act. Moving on to fiscal year 2027, again, the board expresses its gratitude to the city administration and city council for partnering with the board. For fiscal year 2027, the board projects potentially a budget of $280 million to meet the demands of major statewide election cycle, addressing critical infrastructure upgrades. The board is requesting $130 million to be allocated to personal services and $150 million to be allocated to OTPS, including one-time capital investments. In FY 2027, the board will conduct 2 major election events: the November 3rd, 2026 general election for governor and lieutenant governor and other statewide congressional offices, and a primary election on June 22nd, 2027. Each event includes 9 days of early voting. Conducting early voting for a continuous 9-day period has fundamentally altered the board's approach to elections, transitioning from single-day events to 10-day operations over approximately 2 weeks. Maintaining the 156 early voting sites necessitates additional funding for equipment, office space, staff, training, leasing, poll site costs, and public education to meet increasing demands from statewide contests and citywide contests. The budget also includes essential upgrades and enhancements to ensure reliable, secure, and accessible elections. Replacement of 2,287 ballot marking devices and potentially upwards of 700 more at an estimated $8,000 per unit, and additional ancillary equipment totaling approximately $30 million. This addresses end-of-life concerns, memory limitations, and compatibility issues in the current fleet, ensuring full accessibility for voters with disabilities and compliance with the Help America Vote Act requirements, and supporting high turnout in statewide elections. It must be clearly noted that replacement of the BMD's devices compatible with the board's current voting machines have not been certified by the New York State Board of Elections, and the board is not permitted to use any BMDs unless the New York State Board of Elections completes its certification process. Accordingly, the board is providing this information to advise that we have been informed that the certification process is underway and anticipated to be completed at the end of fiscal year 2026. Upon certification, the board intends to submit replacement costs as a new need during fiscal year 2027. Further, with respect to technology issues, to ensure compatibility with Windows 11 and continued enhancement of cybersecurity, all computers utilized by the board, and I believe other city agencies as well, must be replaced. The cost for such replacement is estimated at up to $8 million. This includes workstations, administrative systems, and to prevent vulnerabilities, support modern voter registration / absentee portals, and maintain secure operations. We'll also have to replace some vehicles, replacement of 4 aging Sprinter vans used for transporting voter equipment and supplies that are utilized by the borough offices. Although we have 5 borough offices, only 4 are presently eligible for replacement, and that estimated cost is between $300,000 to $500,000. These vehicles are critical for logistics across more than 1,200 election day locations and 156 early voting sites, as well as regular business conducted between the boroughs, particularly during extended early voting periods and multiple event cycles. The board is working with DCAS to finalize the approval process for the purchase of the vehicles that fully meet the board's operational needs. These capital investments, coordinated with the Office of Technology and Innovation and Fleet Management protocols, are vital to prevent disruptions in the 2026 gubernatorial cycle and align with ongoing mandates for secure, accessible voting. The board is committing to phasing these in where possible to manage fiscal impact. The board will continue appropriate outreach to voters and poll workers. The board reaffirms its request to establish municipal poll workers, a municipal workers / poll workers program. Ongoing voter education remains essential. The board will implement media campaigns in partnership with groups like the Campaign Finance Board for message consistency and board coverage, building on successful outreach in prior elections cycles. Excuse me, I just need a little water. Expanded early voting heightens cybersecurity needs. The board maintains ongoing monitoring and a strong relationship with OTI. The New York State Board of Elections directs enhanced requirements necessitating additional staffing. The board must implement an internal cybersecurity task force with added staff, including potential tier grant support. And OTI, when it was in its prior iteration as NYC3, provided the contractual mechanism that allows the board to have external 365 by 24 by 7 by 24 monitoring of all of our systems and servers, so that we work at preventing any cybersecurity breaches. The board is committed to working closely with its government partners and interested parties to effectively serve the voters of the city of New York. Any resources will be used responsibly to meet the needs of the voting public. The board remains sensitive to the fiscal challenges of New York City and mindful of its obligations. The board is committed to the partnership with the administration and the council. The board is confident that additional funding requests, including essential upgrades, will enhance our ability to serve the voters. The board reaffirms its commitment that allocated resources will be used wisely, and the public trust will continue to be a guidepost. And now myself and Mr. Ignizio will be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you. I'll ask some. I'm sure my colleague from Staten Island will have some for you also. I know you talked about the need for these new machines whenever it gets certified by the state, et cetera. So what capital request is the department, the board, making to OMB now? Are we starting with the machines? We don't even know what machines we're getting. So.
Right. What we have done to this point is basically indicated to OMB that we're anticipating a new need ask. We can't make the ask, as the chair rightly points out, until the machines are certified. We have been given other dates in the past when the certification process would have been completed. Those dates were not met, but we have received assurances that it is on a better path now and that they're expecting to certify by the end of the year. Keep in mind that that's not just within the ambit of the State Board of Elections. It requires cooperation from the vendor, and the vendor must meet its mile markers as well, because all of these technological equipment that is related to elections all gets verified through an outside lab to check that all of the coding is done properly and works effectively.
And Mike, if I could add, Madam Chair, and to the committee, there is an international RAM shortage across the globe right now due to the AI technology, and it's sucking up all the excess RAM that's going on across in the world. So the company itself would need to ramp up in order to meet the needs of a large order that we would place here for New York City. So what we're trying to do is encourage our friends at the State Board of Election to work with us such that we have the runway sufficient to have them ready, have them in place by a 2028 year. So that's the goal. Because we're New York City, because we're so large, we need a lot longer runway than a smaller county upstate would, and we're hopeful to be able to provide these BMDs to our accessible community.
And do the upstate folks have the same BMDs? They have the same?
Yeah, they would be.
Everybody would be a statewide contract, I assume? Is that how it works?
Yeah, they would be approved, and then the counties can buy them at their.
And to the extent that they have the same vendor that we have.
That's what I'm asking.
Right. If they have the same vendor that we have, then they have the same problem.
Right.
But they're buying 10. But, on all due respect to our friends at Oneida and Onondaga County, they're buying far fewer than we are.
Okay. And is there any discussion about what kind of machines? There's always a discussion down here. I mean, is it just up to the state? Do they take input from the people who are going to be using them down here?
They do the
There's always
certification.
a lot of drama about the machines that are purchased.
They do the certifications, and we require machines that would actually speak to our machines as well.
to your needs.
Not ones that just. So we are required to purchase those that have been certified by the State Board of Elections.
Okay.
And Madam Chair,
Haven't been through this before.
right. This is going to be about a roughly a $30 million expenditure.
Okay.
And that's only for the BMDs.
Right, I understand.
And that would be leaving our current voting machines in place.
Right.
So to give that, a perspective of scale, if we were to, at some point down the road, replace the voting machines themselves, we would be talking about a far greater
I know.
expenditure.
But I'm just
So-
saying, even within the disabled community, which is something that we're talking
Right.
about, they always have what they like and what they don't like. So that's why I was asking. So
I think the reason for us bringing this up today and making sure that we stress it now is so that we don't sneak up on the fiscal planners for the city of New York, number one, which would be unfair. But number two, to let the accessibility community know that we are thinking of them. We acknowledge that the current ballot marking devices are not meeting their needs, and we're doing everything we can to be prepared to meet their needs better when the new machines are able to be utilized.
okay, we've all been through this before, so I didn't want to go through it again. Are there other requests that will be, obviously this is not immediate, going to OMB for capital?
The vehicles that we referred to that are at their lifespan, we will be requesting of those. But that's it for additional needs.
Right, you talked about those. Okay. I was thinking about some of the, I mean, I don't know, they're not as expensive, but you always need, I don't know what you call them, gangplanks to get from one end of the non-accessible area to another. You know, sometimes you need those long.
Are you referring to our ramp contracts?
I call them gangplanks.
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
Well, I think we have approximately 17 vendors that provide for ramp contracts throughout.
And those are
throughout the
capital or
city.
that's expense?
That's expense.
That's expense money. I mean, we've encouraged several times to work with both all of our providers to see if we could have capital improvements that meet the requirements that we wouldn't need them, and those conversations are ongoing for every school whenever they come up, or for whatever library.
I know it
You know,
only
obviously,
too
our
well.
preference would be for all of the buildings that we utilize to be permanently
Accessible. For your,
accessible.
For your guidelines.
Right.
Right, towards our standards,
But
yeah.
we do what we have to do.
No, I know.
And that's all coming out of expense money.
So along those lines, obviously there's the lab school on the east side is the one that sends me many emails, and there are probably other schools. I know you'd love to get out of the school business. I understand that it's hard to find other places. So my question is twofold. One, in that particular instance, they had suggested some nearby cultural institutions. I know you were kind enough to make that change on the Upper West Side where we went to the American Museum. So I'm just wondering, in that particular situation, is there movement to find another place? This is the lab school.
Yeah. So
And then also just generally, how can we help you get out of some of these schools?
the umbrella is out of 158 schools that will be 158 early voting sites. About 25% of them are schools.
Right.
We would love to be out of them as much as possible. We reach out to council members, we reach out to market makers and say, please provide us with ideas on how we can do so. The problem, once again, is the runway. We can't decide in 2026 that for this primary or for the general, we're going to switch and move into a different location. So that's always been an issue. And finding suitable sites that are accessible, that do have the ability to hold a polling site and the requirements therein is not as easy. With regards to this specific site, I might say it wrong. Is it the Rubin Museum?
Yes.
Our understanding is that building was sold and unavailable. It has been surveyed, and there was a second suggestion, which
I think it was a Whitney.
which I don't know much about the Whitney, and/or we have, but we have, I work very closely with the Deputy Chancellor Kevin Moran, as does Mike, and we have a great relationship to try to accommodate. But we would like to be clear. We would like to be out of schools as well. We just need a suitable alternative to do so. So we'll review the Whitney Museum and have our.
There's suggestions. I mean, after 400 or 500 emails, I'd love to work with you to try to find something else because
Happy to.
they come in every day.
Happy to.
And Madam Chair, quite frankly, you have worked with us in your former capacity as the borough president as well, and we appreciate that because we really do believe that the elected officials, in practical reality, are and should be the eyes and ears of the community. And to the extent that there's information that we're missing or a potential blind spot, we're happy for that to be pointed out to us and work to make any necessary corrections.
I know my friend Dan Slippin is going to want to shout out right now, so thank you to the Met for being a very good neighbor with regards to moving the site for that.
Definitely deserves it. I yield to my counterpart from Staten Island.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's always a treat to see two Staten Islanders at that table, and a special treat when one of them is not only a former member of this body, but a former representative of the 51st Council District.
And the best man at your wedding, let me remind you.
Naturally, hey, I didn't want to out you. According to the mayor's preliminary budget report, complaints about and management report, complaints about poll workers dropped from 551 in fiscal year 2023 to just 90 in fiscal year 2025, which is obviously a pretty dramatic improvement. What changes did the board actually implement in either training, management, or whatever else that led to that reduction?
Let me point out that I was hired in 2022.
Well, apparently it was all related to Mr. Ignazio's arrival. But truthfully, we our recruiting program that we've implemented which of course we're utilizing social media and all the other tools that are available, has been a very has been more robust than it had been in the past, and to keep the public kind of misperception that the Board of Elections is this, only political things happen at the Board of Elections. The number of percentage of poll workers that come directly from political parties has been dropping steadily from
That's a good thing. I'm sorry.
during my 13 years, through no specific effort other than the fact that it's just dropping steadily. And I think we're under 25% of the poll workers come directly from the political parties, and 75% come from interested citizens who go on to electiondayworker.com and want to sign up to help the community. So I think that, taking it away from us taking responsibility for all the great things and flipping it back to the community, I think we do have a lot more community interest in people wanting to serve and taking pride in that service. So yes, our training has improved, all of those things that you would expect that would lead to it, but we also have a lot of public interest, and that's I think the poll workers need to be praised for that.
Frank, if I can add, we have a very professional staff. The New York City Board of Elections has the only CIRA certified office of managers in the entire country. So while it's fashionable sometimes to throw shots at it, we're very proud of the management team we've assembled. They are CIRA certified, the only in the state. They are doing a fantastic job, and good management ends up being you'll see it in the product. And I think many people, including those in the those that have continually bashed the Board of Elections, have seen a noticeable difference of quality elections that were served to the people of the city of New York over the last several years. So we're proud of it. We're going to continue to build on it. But we have so many people who want to serve. We have more poll worker requests than we do slots for them, because people want to be a part of the civic process, and we welcome it.
Since you both mentioned the changes in poll worker recruitment and everything else, again, according to the mayor's preliminary management report, it shows that poll worker attendance on election day has remained above 96%, which is obviously pretty impressive given the size of the system. What strategies has the board used to recruit and retain such a reliable poll worker workplace, given, as you said, the decrease in direct referrals from the political parties?
Well, the public's been very generous with their money as well. They're paying poll workers now $250 for the day and $350 for coordinators. So that does attract people as well. People want to be more engaged, and I think every time that there is a major race, a mayoral race, a presidential race, people are more interested in getting involved, and that's been great. And we've had a very good team of folks that have been getting the word out about what's going on at elections, and people just want to get involved.
Speaking about the swings in turnout, I'll ask you both this, Mr. Ryan. The mayor's management report shows huge differences in turnout depending on the election cycle, whether we're talking a mayor's race, a presidential race, or a city council race. How does the board scale staffing and logistics to handle those large swings in voter participation?
What we have done is we treat every election event, but when I was talking citywide election events, we treat every citywide election event as if there's going to be 100% turnout. So we don't have large fluctuations in terms of, say, the number of poll workers, because the analogy that I use is, if you're going to throw a party and you're going to invite 100 guests, you have to buy all the food for 100 guests, you have to buy all of the paper goods for 100 guests, and if only 10 people show up, you might have a lot of leftovers, but you still were prepared for the 100 people that you invited. And that's what election events are. We have to prepare as if 100% of the voters are going to turn out. Now, that having been said, we recognize that in this order, presidential, followed by gubernatorial, followed by mayor, and then followed by the Queens DA and the Staten Island DA, those are our highest to lowest election events. And that hasn't changed, although the numbers within, some presidential years are more robust than others. But in terms of that order, that pecking order that hasn't changed in the 13 years that I've been here.
The chair asked you about early voting, and you mentioned in your testimony that early voting has effectively transformed elections from this single day event into roughly a 10-day operational period. How has the board adapted its planning and staffing to manage an expanded time frame like that?
Well, we had to establish, it's a little bit technical, but when we would do the canvassing, that used to occur all after Election Day. And we really did think when the state legislature passed that was going to be highly problematic for us if we had to do it ahead of time. What we found out was, with appropriate planning and appropriate readjustment of full-time staff, we didn't have as many problems as we thought we were going to have. And in fact, it has turned out to be a blessing, not only for the Board of Elections, but for the elected officials and the voters as well, because we have to stop canvassing mail ballots on the Friday before the Tuesday of Election Day. What that means is the overwhelming majority of mail ballots, which we're calling them now instead of absentee ballots, are canvassed and completed before Election Day. Now, we can't publish the results until 9 o'clock on Election Day. But now when you're looking at election results, you're seeing all of the results from Election Day, all of the results from early voting, and the overwhelming majority of mail ballots. So all of that back end rancor that used to happen, how come the Board of Elections can't, count all the ballots, and why is it taking so long? Doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, we should point out we're the fastest also in the state. I'm going to keep being a cheerleader for the New York City Board of Elections. The fastest returns in the entire New York State is New York City Board of Elections by roughly 9:30-ish, and you have over 80-90% in, and that's because of effective work by great people. There are people watching right now, I'm sure, at their desk at the board, and we want to thank them. When it was 100-degree weather during the primary, people showed up and were there. When it was a blizzard, people showed up. So these are our neighbors. They're not, they don't come from Mars. They're our poll workers, our staff members do an excellent job and continue to, and I just wanted, the one message I want them to hear, Mike and I say, is that we honor them for their service.
And Councilman, I know you want to get on to the next thing, but I also want to extend another thank you to the City Council because when we made that presentation, I think it was back in 2019, 2018, whatever it was, we made the presentation to the City Council that we needed laptops for the poll sites so that we could upload the results from the poll sites. That was an investment that continues to pay dividends today because that's one of the major things that allows us to get our results so quickly on election night.
Let me take advantage, if I may, Madam Chair, of the fact that we're all Staten Islanders. We heard a lot during the recent snowstorm when the mayor was explaining the difficulties of plowing Staten Island, about the unique topography of Staten Island and the unique difficulty of catering to a borough like that. Are there any operational challenges unique to boroughs like Staten Island, whether it's related to geography, site availability, staffing, that the board has had to address in recent election cycles?
Well, let's stick with Staten Island just for a second, and we'll get to other areas in the city. One of the problems that Staten Island has is because of its unique character, not necessarily topography, we don't have the plethora of government-owned buildings, say, that some other boroughs might have in a concentration. So we have what we call inside the board as deserts within Staten Island, where we don't have real options. We only have one option. This is the place. It's the only place that's available. It's the place we have to use. So when you hear some complaints about some locations in Staten Island, we won't name them, that's one of the reasons. In terms of topography, one of the most difficult places in terms of topography is Washington Heights. We had moved We had moved a poll site literally 1 block in Washington Heights. And this was a number of years ago, and got a crazy number of complaints.
I remember.
And we went to the place to visit it, and we brought one of the experts with us, and he said to me a term that I had never heard before. He called it a hand burner, meaning that the block was so steep that if somebody was a manual wheelchair user, they would not be able to stop the wheelchair with their bare hands. And that was not a term of art. It was a term within that accessibility evaluation. So of course, challenges occur when we learned a lesson from that. You can't look at a map, a flat piece of paper, and necessarily come to the best conclusion. You really have to evaluate these matters specific to the locations that you're dealing with.
And that's why we dovetail to council members, chairs. If you have issues with regards to an early voting locations, please let us know, because we know you are the experts in your districts. So please evaluate. Send us sites you want us to survey and look into. They won't always work, and sometimes they don't even want you there or us there. So, but we're happy to work with any and all who want us to look at different sites.
And one of the things that led to the expansion, A, the establishment of, and then B, the expansion of the number of ramp vendors that we use, was an acknowledgement that temporarily retrofitting a location is often the better alternative than moving the poll site somewhere else. And that was an evaluation that we made. We get much, much less complaints about poll sites and poll site relocations, although they still do happen, but not nearly with the frequency that they used to happen years ago.
Lastly, Madam Chair, I think between the four of us, the two of you and the two of us, we've collectively run in 21 elections, most of those the chair. But the point is, you guys know your way around that aspect of the electoral arena as well, and you know how much skepticism there is among the public about election integrity and voter integrity. In 2004, when President Bush won, you had a lot of Democrats claiming that the machines in Ohio were rigged, or some version of the result was inaccurate. In 2020, when President Biden won, you had a lot of Republicans voicing similar skepticism. So with that, public confidence in elections is pretty critical to democracy. Can you walk us through the safeguards that the New York City Board of Elections has in place to ensure that the ballots are secure, voter rolls are accurate, and that every vote cast in New York City is counted properly?
So, New York State election law has probably one of the most stringent bodies of law in the country with respect to maintaining ballot integrity. Now, one of the things that they did from the very beginning, and it was a matter of robust debate in the State Board of Elections and in the state legislature, was they do not allow voting machines at poll sites to be networked. There is the potential to have an air card within those voting machines that would allow the results to be transmitted that way. And there's also the potential of the voting machines being linked from one to the other. None of that is permitted in New York State. So when you vote on a particular voting machine, the ballot goes in, it gets kept into a secure box in that cabinet that you're voting on. But more importantly than all of that, there's no way to externally access that machine to be able to change the vote totals. You would have to have physical access to that voting machine, which would mean if you were going to change vote totals in any great way, people would have to go into the 1,200 poll sites on Election Day, somehow remain invisible and undetected, and then be able to physically access the ports on the back of the machine to change the vote totals. And then somehow change those vote totals on the paper too, so that when we detected that there was a problem, the recount of the paper would match the electronic totals. It is a virtual extreme impossibility.
And it's also with use of with our partner agencies, the NYPD, which doesn't happen everywhere. A chain of custody of ballots with the NYPD as well. And it's important to note that when we do either sense or believe that there is any type of election interference, we have made several referrals to both the federal, city, and state agencies for prosecution.
And we see that typically, with either the absentee process or the voter registration process, not with the election day process. And then post-election, which I neglected to mention, there is a audit process that is required by state election law. You'll hear it called a 3% audit, but it's really not. It could be up to 100% audit, but it's 3%. If there's a problem with the 3%, it goes to an additional 5%, which would be 8%, and then up the chain. In my 13 years, there's only been one time where any audit has gone beyond 3%, and it was in a few districts in the Bronx about 8 or 9 years ago. So we're confident in the integrity of the system, and we're further confident with the integrity of our employees who are responsible for making sure that all of these vote totals are calculated properly.
Thank you both. And next time you're here, I hope you'll bring the board's operations manager, Georgia Consomanis, with you so we can thank her on behalf of the public for the great work she's doing as well.
Well, she's watching it from her desk.
And probably cursing you right now.
So you just thanked her. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So justice-involved voters, there are many individuals in our jail system that are eligible to vote, as they're either awaiting trial and haven't been convicted of a crime or have only been convicted of a misdemeanor. According to the fiscal 25 MMR data, the city's jail population has grown each year since 21. It is quite possible that there are also many who are eligible to vote that are either unaware or have trouble figuring out how to vote. And I know League of Women Voters, Legal Aid, and so on, they're all trying to make this barrier less so that people can vote. So what are the barriers to facilitate voting? How is voter eligibility communicated to those in the facility, at Rikers in particular? What lessons have you learned from election cycles? I know there has been some effort to make this a reality for people. What coordination exists between the board and agencies such as probation and correction? And how are you addressing misinformation in justice-involved communities where individuals may incorrectly believe they are permanently barred from voting? I hear a lot when I go to Nycc family days that people feel this is not you, this is just the way our society works, that they have completed everything in terms of their sentence, but they do not feel they can vote. That's a real problem.
Well, just the umbrella, and then I guess Mike he's very well schooled on this, having served as a probation officer and as the board chair. But we have instituted a working group with all interested parties that speaks every single month, and they've done a great job of working with both the interest groups and the Department of Corrections to ensure that they have a system in place that any incarcerated individuals can vote. I don't know, Mike, if you have...
Right. So it is the responsibility of the New York City Department of Corrections to impart the information to those whose care they are responsible for the period that they remain incarcerated. So in the past, it was the board doing its job and the Department of Corrections doing its job. And I don't want to say never the twain shall meet, but they were further apart than they should have been. And since Council Member Morano already mentioned Ms. Consomanis, I'll mention her again. Our operations manager really took the bull by the horns and insinuated the board into the process more than we had been in the past. And one of the things that we did, which I think has really helped of the Department of Corrections is we have now an internal process where all of the documentation that needs to be turned over to the Department of Corrections with respect to voting eligible incarcerated individuals are now transmitted internally to the Queen's office. And it's kind of a one-stop shopping for the Department of Corrections. They get all the information that they need, and all of the exchange of documents is handled out of the Queen's office so that we can better maintain control over it. But also, the Department of Corrections doesn't have a tremendous amount of staff that's dedicated to this process, and they used to go from borough office to borough office. So instead of them circling all around the city, we work with them. We justify the numbers every month to make sure that we're not missing anything or nothing's fallen through the cracks. And from what I understand has been reported to me, although I'm not as maybe well-versed, I'm certainly not as well-versed in it as Ms. Consomanis, but that the Legal Aid Society, who works closely in this process, has been largely complimentary of the board's efforts and our assistance to the Department of Corrections in making this process work better.
No, I think it's improving. I know that there are many, I don't know, something like almost maybe 500 people, but there were thousands registered. So it's hard. I'm not going to say it's easy, but is there a portion of the budget that is allocated toward this effort in terms of marketing, in terms of staffing, or is it just?
Well, so we don't have direct access to the individuals that are incarcerated, but we provide the Department of Corrections all of the information that they need, and as it's updated, as its updates are required, we update.
And I don't believe it's a budgetary issue.
No.
We could supply them with whatever they need. They have sufficient budget as well. I think this is some people don't engage as well. Like just because you're registered and you're there doesn't mean you want to partake in the system any more than anybody in Staten Island or Manhattan or whatever does. So, but we're committed to working and continue on a monthly basis. If people can build a better mousetrap, we're happy to be a partner in that to the extent we can.
So a couple of things in terms of the budget as well. We have over 5 million registered voters in the city of New York when you add inactive and active voters.
5.3. Yeah.
So if we're talking about 500 to 1,000 individuals from the Department of Corrections, it really is a drop in the bucket in terms of our voter processing budget. So it's not going to be a funding issue. One of the challenges, I think, in fairness to the Department of Corrections, is that they're dealing with a transient population, and they might touch an individual with respect to voting information, and then that individual either makes bail or has their case resolved and gets out, or has their case resolved and moves on to the State Department of Division of Corrections. So,
now ballot expires.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a moving target for them as well. But we certainly want to be and should be and want to be as helpful in that process as we can, because our job is to service all of the voters of the city of New York, or eligible voters of the city of New York.
Okay, so what happens, just once you, say for instance, you do get registered, you're there for a series, and Legal Women Voters is there often, and so is Legal Aid. They're both trying. And so once you are registered, I guess there's some, it's a pretty major election coming up in November, and there's some primaries. So if you're there, then the ballot would be filled out there and then brought back to Queens. Is that the idea? Is that
Yes.
how you would address
Right. And before, I think the big change was there was no tracking in place for, that I would say, unified tracking between the Department of Corrections and the board over how many are dropped off and how many are processed back. It used to be that the Department of Corrections would drop off what they dropped off, we'd process what we processed, and nobody was comparing numbers. That's now happening on a monthly basis to make sure that we prevent as many as we possibly and humanly can from falling through the cracks.
Okay, you want to say?
No, I was just it's not an ignored population. It's one that we're working on, and quite frankly, the benefit of having tracking throughout has been a benefit to everybody in the city because we're able to see where your ballot is, where it is along the process when it's mailed, and working with the post office, we can see what's coming back. So it's been it's been a good endeavor to have that tracking system throughout.
Okay.
And also, we compare numbers like you should, kind of like little mini audits every month with the Department of Corrections and the Board of Elections. And then we're on the same page when those numbers are shared with the Legal Aid Society. So we think that that's also contributing to more faith in the system on the part of the Legal Aid Society because they're not getting one set of numbers from the Department of Corrections and an apparently different set of numbers from the board.
Okay, so the tracking is working. Regarding voter privacy, related to Local Law 31 F25, voter privacy and awareness obviously are necessary. You know that as well as I do. How many voters currently utilize confidential voter registration status under Election Law 5-110, and what is the average processing time for these requests?
It's about 150, I would say, citywide.
150.
Yeah, and it's within 24 to 48 hours it's processed. We had a scenario that existed not too long ago where it was processed within 8 hours.
Okay.
We recognize the delicate nature of the request and how sometimes the impact on it is immediate. So we do not take a back seat to something so serious.
So how do you tell voters about this available protection? You know, obviously I passed a bill recently for the domestic violence.
Yeah, that's right. So the CFB was charged. The CFB was charged with that through your bill. However, we have it on our website. It's on the state board's website. It's available for people. I believe we have a flyer on it as well. But we encourage people to, should they require or need that protection, to avail themselves of it, because we will process it right away. It's a very serious, very significant issue that we are happy to ensure the proper adjudication of.
And the state law was amended when it first was initiated. An individual who was the victim of domestic violence had to actually go to court and file. So the good thing is now there's a state board of elections promulgated form that allows the victim of domestic violence to simply fill out the form, and then we process it, and it's much easier for those individuals that need it.
Okay. And do you have any way of sort of knowing whether or not these campaigns that do say you can be private in your vote are reaching the residents and people who need it? Do you have any way of doing that? Or?
I mean, it's hard for
Or
us
do
to
I know?
tell because how do you define the domestic violence population?
Or any? I mean, there are other populations too. It's not just DV.
Well, even with the judges, I mean, we have worked closely with the federal court most recently, but before that, the state courts. The alternative for a judge that wants their address to become private is that they have to vote either by affidavit or in the office. And what we've seen so far is there hasn't been a mass migration towards that process. There have been some, but a lot of people still like to vote on the machine.
No, I agree. They just may not know about it, though.
Yep.
I'm just,
There has been internal education processes in place in both the state Office of Court Administration and at least one district of the federal court that we've dealt with.
And my understanding is the nonprofits in that sector, and primarily DV and whatnot, are very well aware and have advised them to do that as a way of taking their names off a list that the potential somebody can see.
This is Civics for All Week in the City Department of Education. So 16 and 17-year-olds can pre-register to vote, as you know.
My daughter did.
And make sure that they do. So what steps are you taking to ensure you receive voter information or registration so that they can vote when they're 18? What data do you do, because you're tracking, I hope, what is signed up for? And are there some school district disparities? How do you evaluate the success of this voter registration in high schools? Do you participate in Civics for All? Or I was there this morning and yesterday at the programs. And if legislation lowering the age This is my issue. I know you don't like it. The voting age for municipal elections were enacted. What changes would be required and what timeline? I think that has to be done by the state and not the city. I tried it. So my question is really, how do we get the 16 and 17-year-old in the high schools to pre-register? And how are you tracking it?
So we cooperate with the Department of Education. When this was first brought up, I could tell you when there was an expansion of Local Law 29 and an executive order that was related to that. It was Executive Order number 1 in the de Blasio administration. The board, quite frankly, resisted being the police for city agencies. And our position at the time, and remains so to some extent, is that to the extent that those agencies, whether it be the Department of Education or others, have a reporting requirement to the city council, then it's their responsibility as your kind of co-equal partners in government to make sure that they're reporting accurately. It's not really, the board should not be put in the middle as a go-between or a policing of the city agencies. That having been said, we understand that there's been certain requirements imposed upon the Department of Education by the city charter, and they have asked us to issue voter registration forms with a code on them. So you may recall that code D is for the CUNY. We're now going to do a code S, which is starting with the printing of the new voter registration forms for this year, a code S for the schools, so that they can more accurately track the processed, from their end, the processed voter registration forms. From our end, those forms come in like every other form, and we process them the same way that we process all of the other voter registration forms. With respect to the ages, 16s and 17-year-olds, it is built into the system that those individuals get put into the system as future voters. And when their birth date hits, the system automatically graduates them, for lack of a better term, into a full voter.
And I can tell you it works because my daughter did it. So it works well. We did participate in Civic Week this week. We did have the code. Was it 8 or S? Was it S? S? Okay.
S, yeah,
We did have it active, and there was city council legislation on this as well that was passed last year. So we work fully with our friends at the Department of Ed, and do visit upon request as well.
Okay, I mean, with all due respect for DOE, they have lots of issues to address, and I just want to make sure that this is one of them. So I think it has to be all hands on deck in order to get these young people registered. I mean, you have a receptive audience. If they register at this early age and then they're automatically registered to vote, that's huge.
Yeah, my daughter did it when she got her driver's permit.
Learner's permit, yeah. But that's your daughter.
Yeah. Well, I'm just
not everybody else. I'm just saying. So I'm just, having known thousands and thousands of high school students, it would be fabulous to get them registered. And this is one way to do it. So I'm just saying I think we should put more effort into it. I understand DOE is supposed to be doing that. They're supposed to be doing the outreach. But I think also you all should be doing the same thing.
The other thing, though, that I think we have to give some thought on, and I recognize that this is not a fully incomplete thought to a resolution of the problem. You hand a kid today a pen and a piece of paper, they look at you like you're crazy. We have to migrate this process to the online voter registration.
What are you doing about that?
Process. Well, the Department of Education asks us for like 100,000 pieces of paper. One of the feedbacks that we've gotten from not only the Department of Education but other entities that do voter registration drives is there is no process in place for them to track if it goes into the electronic system, and that the paper allows more accurate tracking. But if the paper is allowing for more accurate tracking, but not accommodating a population that is otherwise resistant to filling out pieces of paper, you know, I think that's a
just-
conversation worth having.
That's like a software issue. Why can't this be addressed?
We have overcome that. That's with the new codes that we have
The S.
deployed. Well, we can, but now it's about having our friends and colleagues in schools adopt the model of bringing more iPads or laptops in order to register and not hard copy. But you know, it's a work in progress. We're doing well. We just
So
have
you
to.
can't track the S if it's online. Who would fix that? Is that a who?
No, what I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying the opposite. What I'm saying is that the entities that are doing the voter registration drives can't track how many individuals they processed if it's online.
Well, why not? That's what I'm saying. In other words, you're in the you could track it if they use your code, right?
Right, it's a hurdle that we've overcome just this year.
You can track it.
Yeah.
But so you'd have to take some paper and some online and combine them, right, for the tracking.
Yeah, we can convey to the Department of Ed, should they want, what and whom, how much registrations we've had this year alone or next year. That's the ultimate goal of it, which we've done.
It's just about. I don't think it's an impossible task.
Oh, I
What
don't
it
either.
is
It's a software
it's
issue.
about breaking an old habit.
Yeah, but
People are used to doing it this way and used to handing out the forms, and you know, we need to get to the point where the younger folks, especially,
I
whether
agree.
it's school students or millennials, as they say, have to know that they can pick up their cell phone and do it right from their cell phone.
I'm aware of that, but it's not going to be cell phone in the high schools, Mike, in case you didn't know. But it could be a laptop. So I think we'll work with DOE to try to get them to do it. But as long you can count, somebody may still do it on paper. We put the two together, you got to, it's not hard. It's
Correct.
one plus the other is what the total is. All right, so that's something to work on for us. Homeless, people who are housing instability situations. Obviously, it's hard to them to receive voter information. Voter registration forms ask for an address. I think you can vote without having a permanent address, but please answer that. What steps have you taken to deal and get people who are homeless to understand that they can vote? And what guidance is provided to poll workers when somebody comes in, when they do list a shelter or, I said, park bench? I've seen that. Do you coordinate with the outreach workers at different shelters? Have you conducted outreach to city shelters or to supportive housing facilities? And again, do you have data? Is that another place where you collect data on this issue?
Yeah, so the education part of that is we work with the Campaign Finance Board because that falls into their responsibility, and we provide them with updated information to make sure that, Madam Chair may remember a few years back when there was some misinformation that was promulgated with respect to who was eligible to vote if they were a convicted felon, and we worked with the Campaign Finance Board to make sure that they had the correct and updated information to avoid that from happening again in the future. And in similar regard, when there are outreach requirements that the Campaign Finance Board has, we have worked very closely with them to make sure that they have the accurate information. In terms of special instructions to the poll workers, the registration system is designed to accommodate people who don't have a permanent address, and it's in the system. So as long as if the person shows up to vote, there's nothing that really needs to be done on the part of the poll worker. They show up to vote, they give them their name, it comes up on the iPad, they sign their signature, and move on.
Right. But in terms of there's no tracking for those who are in shelters or in, I would just call it temporary housing. There's no tracking for that.
There's not.
No, and again, similar to the incarcerated population, that is also a very transient population within the city of New York. So I honestly can't see how we could implement an effective tracking system that involves individuals who may be on the move on a regular basis.
All right, I thank you very much. I would look forward to dealing with that one school that is quite upset and trying to find another location. We can work with you on that if you want.
Sure.
And then, we work with you on your capital needs that are more immediate with your vans. And then just look forward to getting as many people as possible to vote. I think, obviously, in the last election, many more people did vote. What was the new number that you had in terms of voting for last election?
It was north of 2 million.
North of 2 million. Okay, all right.
I don't know the exact number.
Right, which is, that was in the mayor?
I do have one more question. Thank you for reminding me. Councilmember Dinowitz has a question. I forgot that he's had a question. Let me read it to you right now. Hold on. Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to find it. Here it is. Okay, it is. Thank you for reminding me. I think he sent a letter to you in 2024 outlining the concerns about the way party positions appear on primary election ballots, and he didn't get a response. So, number one, party positions such as district leader, state committee appear on the primary ballot when there's a contested primary. How historically, there were 2 seats for each position within an assembly district. One designed for a male and one designed for a female, and the ballots reflected that structure. Male and female candidates were listed separately, and voters were instructed to vote for one candidate for each seat. More recently, the rules governing these positions were changed so that the 2 winners must be the top vote getters of different genders. However, the ballots have not been updated to reflect this change. At the current time, all candidates appear under a single heading, regardless of gender, even though 2 candidates of the same gender cannot both win the seats, that's for sure. This creates confusion for voters and candidates alike because the ballot does not clearly communicate how the winners are actually determined. So the question is, will the Board of Elections commit to updating its ballot design so that party official candidates are clearly separated by gender, and the ballot explicitly states that only one candidate from each gender may be elected for a maximum of 2 positions? Only Councilmember Dinowitz could think of this question.
So that may be the impression, but I can tell you without naming names that one of the board's commissioners agrees in some respects with Councilman Dinowitz. The difficulty here is, and the short answer is to the councilman's question is no. And the reason, no, we will not be changing. And the reason is not because we want to be obstreperous or we want to create difficulty, but what's not being factored into that question is X.
Right.
Right? So if the question was, we have 2 variables, male or female, then the question is more straightforward. When you add in X and turn 2 variables into 3 variables, there's really nothing that the city board can do about it, and have been so instructed by the State Board of Elections. I think one misconception that I always try to beat back is that we simply have a free hand to do whatever we want. The state legislature tells us to do things. The State Board of Elections, and in this particular case, did tell us how we have to do it, and we follow what they're telling us. And from time to time, this body has made enactments that tell us to do things. So we're not just, free-handedly doing whatever we feel like doing. So we follow the state law. We follow the State Board of Elections guidance and directive in this regard. And unless and until there are changes in one of those 2 areas, we're going to continue to do things the way that we've been doing them.
Councilmember Dinowitz spends much more time. I just get elected and win, so I don't. My question is, so you could end up with 2 men or 2 women or an X and a, because then that's not how the process works. You have to have, it could be X and a man or whatever. But I guess when you end up voting in this situation, I have not paid attention like he has.
So
you could end up with situations where
to make it
it's
simple,
viable.
To make it simple, and by the way, the party rules.
There's a party bylaw
the party rules and bylaws factor into this as well. But because the councilman is a Democrat, we'll stick with the Democrats. If it were, say, 3 people running for a party position,
correct,
2 women and a man, we'll leave X out of it for now. both women can't win.
No, they can't.
So if the man gets a vote
Right.
and the two women get 2,000 votes and 1,500 votes, it's going to be
One of
the
the
one
other.
that got the 2,000 votes and the one
All right.
vote man that voted for himself.
Okay, so it's in the end it works out.
Yeah. Short answer is not us.
I got it. You're gonna have to talk to the council member. Second question: poll site changes result in voter confusion, and can have the effect of disenfranchising New Yorkers. While the Board of Elections may send out notifications of polling sites, voters who are voting at a different site may require a separate, explicit notice that their poll site has changed. Question: will the Board of Elections commit to sending out an additional notification to those voters whose poll site has changed,
We do.
or explicitly highlight that there's a change in voting sites?
We do send out when there's an alteration. And to be clear, all of our poll site alterations at this stage have to be run through the Attorney General's office under the John Lewis Voter Rights Act as well.
Right. And if the change occurred prior to the annual information notice going out, probably for the last, well, Val Vasquez was still there, so I want to say it was 2014, 2015, we reworked the information notice, and there's a banner on the information notice. If your poll site's changed, it tells you right on the outside of the information notice that your poll site has changed.
Okay. He might be talking about it if it's the last minute. I don't know, but
Well,
again,
those poll site change notices are auto-generated when we make the change. So everyone who has their poll site change gets a poll site change notice that's auto-generated by the system.
poll
it still
site
has to be
in the
approved.
mail. Talk about it in the mail.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how many people do not open their mail? I'm just saying it's amazing. They don't.
There is a certain level of personal responsibility with that, but it also goes through the Attorney General's office for as well. So
Okay.
Right. And so, to Mr. Ignizio's point, under the John Lewis Voter Rights Act, the Board of Elections has lost. Maybe I don't want to say it that way, but we don't have as much autonomy as we used to have in terms of poll site moves, and we have to go through a pretty rigorous process and make the submission to the Attorney General's office. We've worked very closely with them, and we have it down to a pretty good science right now. But we can't move a poll site without the approval of the Attorney General's office, unless, of course, it's a very last minute thing, like there's a gas leak in a poll site and we have no other choice.
Okay. How do you use social media to tell people about these things, about anything?
we robustly use Twitter or X, whatever you call it these days. We use it very frequently. In fact, we've received a lot of accolades over the past several years for informing people on voter hours. We do it every single day that there's voting is open. In the preamble to an election, we let people know, and we send messages throughout periodically.
You're not allowed to use TikTok, right? Or are you allowed to use TikTok?
In accordance with the city regulations. I think the state has the same regulations. They were advising against it. I don't know where we are today, but that was as of
No, you're
several.
right, but it's crazy because that's where everybody's paying attention. So
But we do a lot of push notifications throughout the various platforms.
okay, TikTok is where they want to go.
I can't help you.
Is that where they want to go?
Yeah, people want to go there. All my staff, TikTok. They
Should
don't-
should I not admit, for the purposes of this hearing, that I've never been on TikTok?
You should admit that.
That's a factor of age.
Yeah, I'm on all the time. I love TikTok. Do we have a plan for ICE? God forbid they show up at a polling place.
Do
No,
we-
yeah. In other words, people are nervous about ICE, and obviously, I don't know who they'd be looking for because.
I mean, we
most
have
people who-
NYPD at every poll site.
Yeah, but most people are voting are Americans, but they don't seem to care these days. So the question is, the public is asking, do we have a plan for ICE showing up at a polling place? Would it be part of your training?
So,
I mean, to me, the answer is you cannot come in here if you don't have a judicial warrant. Get out.
Right.
But I don't know
But
whether that training is there.
Overall poll site security is the responsibility of the New York City Police Department. So we work very closely with the New York City Police Department, and if there was an individual circumstance where it was impeding voting, we have mechanisms in place to deal with
circumstances where people are being deprived of the right to vote.
And as per the New York State Constitution, only citizens can vote, so we don't expect any
No,
issue.
I know, but it's a question that people are asking generally now these days.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much for your testimony, and thank you for your.
Thank you,
for
Madam
being
Chair, and
here.
thank you to the members of the committee, and thank this council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I think we'll hear from Oath next. Yes? Okay. Oath's fiscal 27 preliminary budget totals 80.1 million, which is 851,725 less than fiscal 26 adopted budget. As we know, Oath is the city's central independent administrative law court comprised of the trials, hearings, and more recently, special education hearings division. The preliminary plan includes no new needs and very minor adjustments to Oath's budget. I look forward to learning more today about the role in the collection of fines, staffing, practices for ALJs, administrative law judges, of which I know many, and hearing officers, and how the agency will respond to the mayor's savings mandate, especially given the agency has just 2% vacancy rate. So now we'll swear you in. Thank you.
All right. We will now hear testimony from Oath. Before we begin, I will administer the affirmation. Panelists, please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? All right, you may begin when ready.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chair Brewer. From the Committee of Governmental Operations, State and Federal Legislation, my name is Vilda Vera Mayuga, and as Chief Administrative Law Judge and Commissioner of the New York City Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, I thank you for the opportunity to testify today about the tribunal's work over the past year and the budget projection for this coming year. Oath is New York City's central and independent administrative law tribunal. As I start leading this tribunal, I am confident in our continuing to deliver our mission to ensure due process, fair, and impartial hearings, and timely decisions for everyone who comes before Oath. In calendar year 2025 alone, we received over 1 million summonses, held over 250,000 hearings, issued over 1,800 appeals decisions, conducted over 500 trials, and closed nearly 18,000 special education cases. Overall, this is an increase from the volume of work we did in calendar year 2024. And these tremendous figures are a testament to the amazing public servants who are part of the Oath team. In each of these hundreds of thousands of cases, the committed staff at Oath take great care to ensure that every party who appears before us is treated impartially and is accorded due process. We accomplish this by having administrative law judges and judicial hearing officers who listen to all sides, review the evidence without favor, apply the law fairly, and avoid external influence. At oath, we believe that there is one standard of justice for all. The members of the public who have cases at oath are treated no differently from the city agencies that appear before us. We do not take direction from any city agency on our cases. Our role is to adjudicate cases, not to set policy. Oath's fiscal year 2026 adopted budget was $80.9 million, and the current modified budget is $81.8 million. Preliminary budget for fiscal year 27 will be $80.1 million, including $62.7 in personal services and $17.4 in other than personal services. Our authorized headcount is set at 470 in fiscal year 27 preliminary budget, which does not include the currently active 172 per session judicial hearing officers in the hearings division, all of whom work on a part-time schedule. Oath has 3 separate units that conduct adjudications: the Trials Division, the Hearings Division, and the Special Education Hearings Division. The law will generally specify which cases go to which division, and all of them offer in-person and remote options for the parties to appear and present their cases. At the Trials Division, we adjudicate a wide range of cases filed by city agencies, boards, and commissions. Trials are conducted by administrative law judges appointed to 5-year terms, and the division's caseload includes employee discipline and disability hearings for civil servants, as well as cases involving city-issued license suspensions and revocations, city vendor contract disputes, the conflicts of interest law, the city human rights law, consumer and worker protection laws, loft law, short-term rentals, press passes, watershed protection, retention of police seized vehicles prior to forfeiture proceedings, and campaign finance violations. During the first half of fiscal year 26, the Trials Division heard 152 cases, and more than 94% of the decisions issued by oath ALJs were adopted by the agency heads who referred those cases to oath. The Hearings Division is comprised of adjudications, clerk's office, and appeals. Adjudications conducts hearings on summonses issued by more than 20 different city enforcement agencies for alleged violations of law or city rules. City enforcement agencies that issue these summonses include building, sanitation, DEP, fire, parks department, DCWP, health, the departments of finance office of the sheriff, and the taxi and limousine commission. During the first half of fiscal year 26, the Hearings Division processed over 500,000 summonses, heard over 250,000 cases, and handled 875 appeals. This reflects an increase of 14% in cases heard from the prior year. Although respondents have the option to appear to a hearing in person, most continue to take advantage of our telephonic hearings, a safe, easy, and convenient option. Our clerk's office assists respondents with scheduling remote hearings by email and offering a callback option to eliminate the need to wait on hold for the hearing officer to start their case. The Special Education Hearings Division handles filings related to claims for services for students with special needs. Each complaint is assigned to an impartial hearing officer who must adjudicate the matter in a fair and timely manner. As of March 2nd, there have been close to 13,000 cases filed in fiscal year 26, and cases do continue to be filed each day. And of those cases filed, the division has closed approximately 6,700, and I am happy to report that 89% of those cases closed this year have been closed within the statutory compliance deadline. Now, since 2016, Oath Center for Creative Conflict Resolution has served as the city's government central resource for conflict resolution services and restorative practices in support of city government agencies, businesses, and the general public. The center offers a number of workplace conflict services for city agencies, including mediations, conflict coaching, group facilitation, restorative circles, dispute system design services, education, and training. And a primary goal of the center is to support city government agencies and offices build alternative dispute resolution and restorative programs to strengthen agencies' internal conflict resolution capacity, including in their public-facing work. During the past year, the center has provided close to 500 consultations, coaching sessions, conflict resolution, and restorative practices trainings, workplace and community mediations, and group facilitation. Now, Oath's mission requires it to prioritize the public's access to justice, and to do so, Oath ensures language access services serves respondents through the Help Center, and conducts outreach. Oath ensures information is accessible by providing it in plain language and translating it into the top 10 languages spoken in New York City. Everyone has access to free translation services for help sessions, trials, hearings, community service, and mediation. Oath also makes its forms and applications available in the top 10 languages, as well as other documents such as outreach flyers, informational fact sheets, and handouts. Additionally, Oath provides hearing decisions in any language requested by a respondent free of charge at both of its high-volume adjudicatory divisions, namely the Oath Hearings Division and the Special Education Hearings Division. In fact, the Comptroller audited Oath's language access services in late 2025 and found that Oath had institutionalized language access and was in compliance with all language access laws and regulations. Oath is proud to report that the Comptroller had no recommendations for improvement in this area. Now, not having a lawyer should not limit one's ability to navigate Oath's processes. Without providing legal advice, Oath's Help Center ensures that unrepresented respondents receive answers to their questions, are aware of their rights, and understand the hearing process. Engaging with unrepresented respondents in their language of preference via telephone, text, email, and in person at Oath's offices. Procedural justice coordinators respond to requests for help sessions within 1 calendar day on average. This means that in 2025, the Help Center staff assisted nearly 150,000 respondents. This is an increase of more than 50,000 when compared to the prior year. And for eligible cases, the Help Center staff can also refer unrepresented respondents to independent legal services providers for possible representation at an Oath hearing at no cost to the respondent. And the Help Center did so in close to 250 cases last year. This type of personalized assistance helps Oath ensure that all New Yorkers have access to justice. In addition, Oath's Help Center has specialized units to focus on assistance to small businesses, veterans, and older adults. And since 2021, the Help Center began conducting help sessions in Oath's Trials Division for unrepresented for-hire vehicle drivers facing license suspension or revocation, and vehicle owners seeking to recover their vehicles after NYPD seizure pursuant to an arrest. More than a dozen explanatory fact sheets on enforcement agency processes and Oath's hearing process are available at the Help Center and can be translated into the top 10 languages. Understanding that city government can sometimes be challenging to navigate, Oath has various vehicles for keeping respondents and practitioners updated on new developments. This includes the Tribunal's website, our monthly Bench Notes e-newsletter, and as of last fall, the publication of Oath Trials Division case summaries in the New York Law Journal. Committed to bringing greater access to justice to all New Yorkers, Oath continues to leave our offices and visit our city's diverse neighborhoods, educating residents and small businesses about what we do and how New Yorkers and New York City businesses can resolve their civil violations. In the first half of fiscal year 26, Oath conducted over 100 public-facing educational events in collaboration with elected officials, business associations, community groups, and more. And these educational events include one of Oath's most successful initiative, Oath Resource. This involves Oath staff working with council members and the Brooklyn, New York, and Queens public libraries to assist library visitors on matters related to their summonses and the hearing process. We are grateful for the collaboration with our libraries and elected officials and look forward to working more with the council to continue to find ways to ensure New Yorkers have greater access to justice with Oath. Whatever challenges await the city, Oath's amazing staff have dedicated themselves to meet in the moment and making sure that New Yorkers receive impartial hearings and timely decisions. Oath staff is very much New York's fairest. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify before you today. I look forward to our continued collaboration with the City Council, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. We have lots of questions, but we have to wait a minute while they reset the technology. So thank you.